Chapter 401. What the? You're making it seem as though class monitor Xia Yan is begging devil class to join in. Talk about conditions. What rights does devil class have to talk about conditions? If you want to join, then join, forget it if you don't. On what basis are you talking about conditions? The surrounding students started to berate Yi Qing Luo with righteous indignation. A waste class really treated themselves as treasure. And agreed to their conditions. Wishful thinking. What is your condition? Xia Yan asked with interest. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she replied calmly, devil class's freedom. Freedom. Xia Yan's brows creased in puzzlement, as though he didn't understand what Yi Qing Luo meant. I want devil class's students to have the freedom to leave or stay. Other than the academy's restricted areas, devil class's students have the right to go anywhere in the Heavenly Academy. This request, if the elders agreed to it. During the inter-class competition, even if devil class's students performed outstandingly, the academy had no right to transfer them to other classes. Moreover, in the future, other than those restricted areas, they would be able to move freely. To announce devil class's students to the public, Yi Qing Luo naturally had to think of a way out for them. Xia Yan muttered to himself for a moment. This request, in fact, wasn't too difficult. He could roughly guess the reason why Yi Qing Luo raised this request. Those people in devil class were all waste, their innate talents were extremely bad and they had no actual combat experience at all. They had been hiding in the academy, like a mouse, hiding for several years, just because they were afraid of being bullied by other students. If they were to take part in the inter-class competition, these waste would definitely appear in front of everyone's eyes. If they didn't have this freedom, these students would definitely be isolated and bullied by the other class's students. He couldn't tell that this new student's thoughts were so meticulous. Xia Yan recalled his brother instructing him that he must definitely let Yi Qing Luo and devil class take part in the inter-class competition 8 months later. He restrained the radiance in his eyes as he smiled faintly. This request, I can raise it up to the elders. The students were in an uproar. Xia Yan actually agreed to it. As for the other classes' requests, that will be up to them. Xia Yan spread out his hands, with a helpless look. Waiting for your answer. Yi Qing Luo couldn't care less if he had any ideas or not. After throwing this sentence down, she squeezed out of the crowd and headed towards the direction of the canteen. Xia Yan didn't obstruct her as he squinted his eyes. Gazing at Yi Qing Luo's departing figure, a treacherous luster faintly appeared. Beside him, Shangguan Liuli looked around with her beautiful eyes, carefully grabbing Xia Yan's arm. Class monitor Xia, thank you for helping me. If it wasn't for you, I would have been humiliated by her again. However, before he could even grasp it firmly, Xia Yan had already retracted his hand. Student Shangguan, as a student of the intermediate profound class, to be humiliated by a student of the devil class, do you think you have the qualifications to look down on the devil class? Xia Yan still had a warm smile on his face, but the words that came out of his mouth were extremely ear-piercing. Shangguan Liuli was instantly stunned, and a trace of astonishment flashed past her face. Xia Yan appeared in front of everyone to help her out of trouble. Could it not be because he was helping her? Wasn't it because he was interested in her? She blinked as she stared at Xia Yan's handsome face, wondering if she had heard wrongly. But Xia Yan's deep and impolite words continued to enter her ears. If you have the time to be jealous and bully your classmates, why not raise your own ability? A vase that only looks good will be eliminated sooner or later. Chapter 402. What was Xia Yan's identity? Yi Qing Luo didn't know and didn't delve into it. But she was very clear that Xia Yan had agreed to her condition, which meant that he had the confidence to make the elders' quarters and the other class monitors to agree to it. Looked like the inter-class competition 8 months later, devil class was definitely going to take part in it. She went to the cafeteria to buy some food and sat at the corner table. When the students saw her, they started pointing and gossiping. Yiqing Luo pretended not to see them as she finished her food on her own. At least his stomach was saved. She kept the cutlery and was about to get up when she saw Shengwan Fangyi walking over. That rather handsome face frowned tightly. "Student Yi, do you really intend to lead Devil class to take part in the interclass competition 8 months later?" Yiqing Luo's brows rose. This news spread really quickly. In just a meal's time, it had already spread to the entire courtyard. "Are you crazy? What kind of place is Devil class? If you lead Devil class to take part, wouldn't it be pushing Devil class to eternal damnation?" Shengwan Fangyi's face was gloomy as he put on a concerned look towards Yiqing Luo. The interclass competition is an extremely cruel competition. Although it won't harm the other party's life, but there's a possibility of crippling them. "Xia Yan, that fox is obviously scheming against you." When he said the last sentence, he lowered his voice to a volume that only the two of them could hear. Apparently, he was afraid that the topic of him talking about Xia Yan would be spread out by others. However, while Shengwan Fangyi was worried like an ant on a hot pan, the young lady in front of him raised her slender brows as a ridiculing arc flashed past her slender eyes. "So? You?" Shengwan Fangyi was instantly at a loss for words. He had said so much, and this was the reaction she gave him. Could it be that she really wanted Devil class to take part in the interclass competition? It wasn't that he was afraid of Devil class or afraid of Yiqing Luo. But he wanted to make use of this opportunity to show concern for Yiqing Luo. After all, Yiqing Luo's own ability was something that he understood better than Shengwan Liuli. If he was able to woo this young lady who had been raised in her boudoir, based on Yiqing Luo's relationship with so many high and mighty people, wouldn't they all become his chess pieces? But he had not expected that Yiqing Luo totally didn't fall for his tricks. "Xia Yan is obviously trying to make fun of the Devil class. I believe in your ability, but the other students, I'm afraid they will fall into the evil hands of the intermediate profound class." Shengwan Fangyi frowned and spoke again. This time, his concern was even more obvious. "I just don't want to see you get hurt." When Yiqing Luo heard that, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. This pair of brother and sister were truly blood-related. 1 or 2 disgusting people in such a simple way. "What does it have to do with you?" Yiqing Luo squinted her cold eyes as her lips curled disapprovingly. "Firstly, Devil class isn't led by me, but if the brothers in Devil class are willing to take part, I will follow along. Secondly, before the Devil class can participate, class monitor Xia must be able to fulfill the requirements that I have raised. Thirdly, since you look down on the Devil class, don't show up in front of me, after all. I'm also a student of the Devil class." Shengwan Fangyi kept saying that he didn't want Yiqing Luo to get hurt and so on. His words were filled with concern. But these words, weren't they looking down on Devil class from the bottom of his heart? Since he looked down on them, what was the point of putting on airs in front of her? Yiqing Luo originally didn't want to waste her saliva on Shengwan Fangyi. But upon thinking that she would be harassed by others because of this matter, she might as well say everything out at once. Chapter 403. Student Yi, my kind advice is for your own good. If you insist on seeking death, then go ahead. Shengwan Fangyi had always thought of himself as a romantic and elegant man. Wherever he went, he would receive the shy glances of women. It was rare for him to get close to a woman, but he was humiliated like this. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. With an ashen face, he flicked his sleeves and left. Yiqing Luo picked up the tray and after washing the bowls and chopsticks, she placed it on the wooden rack by the side and turned around to leave. He had wasted quite a lot of time on this pair of siblings. Remembering that the ghost doctor had told him to return to the medicine refining room earlier, he quickened his pace and took a shortcut towards the library. The path from the cafeteria to the library was between the male and female dormitories. Because the dormitory management was very strict, no male students were allowed to climb over the walls of the female dormitory. This path was also blocked because many male students wanted to go to the female dormitory, but the dormitory management broke their legs, causing this path to be blocked. Yiqing Luo's figure was petite and her steps were light. Even if she was blocked, it wasn't too strenuous for her to walk. She crossed the small path and was about to take the main road to the library when a strong arm suddenly wrapped around her slender waist from behind. The elegant scent of sandalwood instantly filled her nostrils. The man's broad chest was tightly pressed against her soft back. That scorching temperature, through her clothes, seemed as though it was going to burn Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's body stiffened as her little hand held onto the large palm on her waist. "You're really heartless. You've really thrown me to the back of your mind." The man's voice resounded in her ears. His tone was filled with displeasure. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled, hearing his grumbling words. A sense of guilt arose in her heart. Ever since she was sent to the library pavilion as a punishment and met the ghost doctor, there were too many things happening and she indeed did not have the time to care about Dmo Xian. He even stayed in Long Yunjian's spiritual energy treasure land for an entire night. Dmo Xian would come to her dormitory every night and hug her to sleep together. But yesterday, she was assassinated and her dormitory was destroyed. She broke the rules again. How anxious would Dmo Xian be when he knew that she had suffered a serious internal injury? Yiqing Luo put herself in Dmo Xian's shoes and she could empathize with that kind of anxiety. It was no wonder that Dmo Xian could not keep his composure and started to grumble at her in broad daylight. "I'm sorry, Xian." Yiqing Luo turned around in Dmo Xian's arms and faced him. Two small hands circled around Dmo Xian's waist. "I've made you worry." The moment she raised her eyes, she met with Dmo Xian's eyes. Those blood veins were like an enchanting blossoming flower. The peach blossoms glistened like a pool of spring water, flickering with flowing light. His obsidian black eyes reflected Yiqing Luo's countenance. His hair was slightly messy. It was obvious that he had not taken care of it for a long time. His brows were slightly furrowed, filled with deep worry. This one look made Yiqing Luo's heart thump hard as it trembled fiercely. Her fair little hands trembled as she caressed Dmo Xian's face. His smooth chin already had some stubble, which was slightly prickly to the touch. His peerless face still had his usual devilish charm, but it was hard to hide his haggardness. Especially since his skin was too fair, the green shadow at the corner of his eyes was even more obvious. "Now that you know you're sorry, will you still dare to mess around like this in future?" Dmo Xian held Yiqing Luo's hand. His tone was like a child's grumbling, but his eyes were filled with joy from seeing Yiqing Luo safe and sound. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she rubbed her face against his chest. Her cheeks were burning hot and her ears were filled with an extremely rhythmic heartbeat, which made her feel indescribably at ease. Chapter 404. How dare he? To make the high and mighty Di Zun worry about him like this. He felt sorry for her and she also felt sorry for him. "Last night, you didn't sleep at all." Yiqing Luo's voice was gentle, revealing a tinge of heartache. Dmo Xian lowered his head slightly as he placed his chin on her neck, sniffing the lady's fragrance. That restless heart in his heart slowly calmed down. His girl had met with the killers yesterday. At that critical moment, he could only stand at the top of the tall building and watch. He wanted to show himself to save Yiqing Luo, to become her strongest support when she was in danger. But he couldn't. He loved Yiqing Luo, but at the same time, he was the Imperial Palace's palace lord, shouldering the Imperial Palace's mission. If he were to show himself now, it would definitely attract the Academy's attention. All of his plans would fail. Hence, he attracted Long Yunjian. But he had not expected that after Chi exhausted the sacred beast's energy to allow Long Yunjian to transform into a dragon, in order to charge into the array barrier, it forced out the dragon's energy. It could be seen that in Long Yunjian's heart, Yiqing Luo had already occupied a very important position. But it was because of yesterday's killer incident which made Dmo Xian even more determined to let Yiqing Luo grow up on her own. He finally understood why Yiqing Luo wanted to walk side by side with him, and not let him protect her under her wings. Because Yiqing Luo wasn't willing to be his burden. She wanted to be his assistant, an assistant who could help him. His identity meant that he had too much helplessness. He had no way to stay by Yiqing Luo's side all the time. And his identity also meant that the people around him would meet with many unknown dangers because of him. He was actually very clear that if Long Yunjian wasn't able to transform into a dragon and kill those killers easily, he would absolutely take the risk of being discovered to save Yiqing Luo. The degree of care he had for Yiqing Luo had exceeded his imagination. Dmo Xian concealed the deep meaning in his eyes as his arms tightened. Promise me, don't let yourself be in a dangerous situation in future. Yiqing Luo smiled as the smile on her lips deepened. I will protect myself well. She told Dmo Xian about how she met the ghost doctor in the library pavilion, then being chased by assassins and finally meeting the blue dragon. The academy has arranged a new dormitory for us. I reckon that we'll only be able to move in after we return to the academy during the holidays. Tonight, I'll stay in the spiritual Qi treasure land to cultivate. I reckon that when I wake up tomorrow, my internal injuries should be completely healed. Yiqing Luo explained where she went last night. Find a place and have a good rest for 2 days. We'll meet again when we return to Three Springs sect. Chasing me away just like that. Dmo Xian rubbed his head against her neck. That scorching breath blew on her earlobe from time to time. Yiqing Luo endured the numbing feeling as her little hand clutched the robes around his waist tightly. Ah Xian, I can't bear to part with you, but what I should do now is to work hard to raise my own strength. I don't want you to worry about me. Silly girl. Dmo Xian sighed softly as his palm covered Yiqing Luo's head, pulling the both of them apart. He lowered his eyes and stared into the woman's enchanting eyes as he gently kissed her on the lips. No matter how powerful you become, I will always worry about you. How could he not be worried? But no matter how worried he was, Dmo Xian couldn't do something like intentionally distancing himself from her just to prevent her from getting hurt. He couldn't bear to and he couldn't do it. This sweet kiss was gentle and lingering, deeply hooking Yiqing Luo. Chapter 405. By the time Yiqing Luo returned to the pill refining room, it was already 2 hours later. The ghost doctor's originally dark and gloomy face was now even darker. A pair of cold eyes stared straight at Yiqing Luo. You took so long just to have a meal. Something happened and delayed me. Yiqing Luo lowered her head as she gave a low laugh. Ghost doctor gave a cold harumph as his face turned gloomy, troublesome. Yiqing Luo gave a few dry laughs. Ghost doctor saw her look and couldn't be bothered to scold her as he flicked his sleeves and entered the pill refining secret room again. Following that, Yiqing Luo automatically started to tidy up the other medicine cabinet. With the experience of tidying up in the morning, the second medicine cabinet was much easier to tidy up. After she had tidied up the medicinal herbs and names in the 2 medicine cabinets, these medicinal herbs' shapes and effects were all recorded in Yiqing Luo's mind. Yiqing Luo dusted her hands as she scanned the medicine cabinet from top to bottom to ensure that she didn't miss out on any drawer. She turned back and tidied up the 2 messy wooden tables. Ghost doctor didn't return. Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings and on seeing the messy bookshelves, she automatically tidied up the bookshelves. She remembered that the last time she bumped into this place, she accidentally opened the pill refining secret room. This time she paid attention and carefully avoided the mechanism. These books which Ghost Doctor had stored were all related to pill refining. There were records of various medicinal herbs' geographical locations, and there were records and legends regarding the origins of the medicinal herbs. As she continued to tidy up, there were quite a number of rare medicinal pill formulas. Yiqing Luo flipped through it and even saw a few familiar formulas. These were the formulas which she had seen from the 100-pill refining book. The 100-pill refining book was something which old man Tsang had hidden for a very, very long time. Even if it wasn't a few thousand years old, it would at least be a few hundred years old. If this were to be leaked out, it would definitely cause a bloodbath. There were quite a number of formulas in these books which belonged to Ghost Doctor. It showed how rare and precious these books were. Yiqing Luo tidied up as she flipped through these books. If there was something which she was interested in, she would spend more time and effort to memorize it all. Time passed slowly, one breath at a time. Yiqing Luo had already tidied up to the last shelf. Just as he was about to move a stool to step on it, he heard a few ladies' ridiculing laughter coming from outside the pill refining room. Didn't they say that Yiqing Luo had been punished to the second story to clean up? Why don't I see him? Could it be that he secretly ran away? If you run, you'll be going against the instructor's orders. Let's split up and look for him. If we can't find him, we'll inform Instructor He and Instructor Chu. Soon after, the sound of several footsteps could be heard walking back and forth. The soundproofing of the medicine refining room had been designed to allow the Ghost Doctor to refine medicine in peace. Moreover, the Ghost Doctor had been afraid of trouble, and because of that, it had been designed very well. By right, under the circumstances of the pill refining room being sealed, Yiqing Luo shouldn't be able to hear the discussions outside. It was just that. Yiqing Luo didn't know what was going on. Ever since she came out from the profound Qi treasure land this morning, her perception and acuity seemed to have increased by quite a bit. Separated by the thick walls, the footsteps and discussions of the students outside could be heard clearly in his ears. Obviously, these people were here to see her make a fool of herself. Yiqing Luo was a little speechless. Was she really so hated? It was just a punishment of cleaning the library pavilion. In the afternoon, Shengguan Liuli had chided her, and now she had to be chided by others. Chapter 406. Yiqing Luo put down the book in her hands and silently walked to the side of the door as she opened a small gap. She saw a few female students walking around outside the library pavilion, pushing open one reading room after another as they searched for Yiqing Luo. They didn't dare to call out loudly, afraid that the administrator would be called over. All of them called out Yiqing Luo's name softly. Yiqing Luo's brows twitched. Why did she have a feeling of soul calling? It looked like if these people didn't find her, they probably wouldn't let this matter rest. Damn it! They were all people who had too much time on their hands. They didn't want to improve themselves, but her time was very precious. Suppressing the raging primitive energy in her heart, Yiqing Luo shut her eyes as she silently recited the incantation and her figure suddenly swayed. In a blink of an eye, she disappeared from the pill refining room. The entrance of the pill refining secret passage split open and Ghost Doctor walked out with a gloomy face. Before he could open his mouth to berate Yiqing Luo for creating trouble again, he saw Yiqing Luo's figure, as though it had blended into the air, disappearing without a trace. Little by little, a trace of astonishment appeared on his wrinkled face. He immediately congealed his senses, sensing Yiqing Luo's position. In the reading room not too far away, he sensed Yiqing Luo's weak presence and the astonishment in his eyes grew by several degrees. In an instant, she silently shifted her position. Wasn't this the legendary secret method? This freshman, how was she able to display such a secret method? In the reading room, Yiqing Luo pretended to clean up as she patted the books on the bookshelf, arranging them properly one by one. Suddenly, the reading room's door was opened by someone. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, recognizing her at one glance. High Profound Classes student, Yan Xiaoyi's half-sister with extremely high innate talent, Yan Jinfei. She's here. Yi Qing Luo is here. The minute Yan Jinfei saw Yi Qing Luo, she immediately stuck her head out and shouted. A few hurried footsteps were heard. 3 female students blocked the reading room's door. This lineup. Yi Qing Luo put down the book in her hands, turned around and smiled. I know you all worship me and are so agitated to see me. Are you all here to ask for my autograph? Bah! Yan Jinfei spat and turned to hug the arm of the female student behind her. Sister Xuelan, look at her. She's been punished for 2 days in a row. Her reputation is ruined, but she still doesn't know it. Lu Xuelan's beautiful eyes squinted slightly. Her expression was filled with pride as she examined Yi Qing Luo. It was undeniable that Yi Qing Luo's looks were too stunning. Coupled with her extremely lazy attitude, as if she didn't care about anything, it added a bit of charm to her. Moreover, the temperament that she exuded was so unruly and unrestrained, yet at ease and at ease. Indeed, she had the capital to make people unable to shift their gazes away from her. Lu Xuelan hated Yi Qing Luo's beauty, but at the same time, Yi Qing Luo's existence was beneficial to her. No one was willing to be born under someone else. It was the same for her. In terms of appearance, talent, and profound rank, she was no worse than Lu Xueyu. Just because Lu Xueyu was born a year earlier than her, she had to become Lu Xueyu's foil. Why? Usually, she and Lu Xueyu had a deep sisterly relationship, running errands for Lu Xueyu everywhere. Lu Xuelan had enough of these things. Hoping and waiting, finally Yi Qing Luo's appearance. She didn't like Yi Qing Luo, but as the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. If she was able to rope in Yi Qing Luo and completely make Lu Xueyu step down, then the position of vice president would be hers. Chapter 407. Yan Jinfei's and the other female students' expressions changed instantly. What happened to finding trouble? How did it become helping Yi Qing Luo? Due to Lu Xuelan's status, the both of them had their doubts, but they didn't dare to say a single word. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as she laughed lightly. Help me. Acting vice president is so kind. That's natural. As the faculty council's vice president, I naturally have to be considerate of students. This is the faculty council's aim. Lu Xuelan apparently didn't hear the ridicule in Yi Qing Luo's words and thought that she was praising herself as a smile appeared on her face. Yi Qing Luo laughed silently in her heart. This Lu Xuelan was really not suitable to stand on such a high ground. Not even a third of her sisters. At least Lu Xueyu knew how to conceal her own thoughts, and other than Si Yenmu's matters, her brain spun extremely quickly. If this Lu Xuelan really became the vice president of the faculty council, she would probably be scolded by Si Yenmu to the point of being drenched with dog's blood. Just one look at Lu Xuelan and Yi Qing Luo knew what she was planning. Acting vice president. Yan Jinfei's brows creased slightly as she gently tugged Lu Xuelan's sleeve. She's not praising. Shut up. Lu Xuelan berated coldly as her expression sunk. Aren't you going to help student Yi clean the library pavilion? Yan Jinfei lowered her eyelids as she didn't dare to say another word. She pulled the female student next to her into the reading room to help Yi Qing Luo tidy up. Everything in the reading room had been tidied up by Qiao Jin and the rest yesterday, so they didn't need their help at all. Moreover, Lu Xuelan didn't have any good intentions. No need. Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and stopped the both of them. I don't need any help. If there's nothing, please leave and don't disturb me. She had tried her best to make her tone gentle and polite. But the three of them apparently didn't think so. Yan Jinfei was originally suppressing a ball of fire in her heart because of Lu Xuelan's command, and without thinking, she pointed at Yi Qing Luo and rebuked, "Don't be unappreciative. Acting vice president asked us to help you because he thinks highly of you. What right do you have to reject him?" That's right, a student from the devil class, with such a notorious reputation, how dare he act so arrogantly? Another female student was also displeased. They were all high profound class students and had always been used to being high and mighty. Since when was it the turn of a devil class student to point fingers? Paw! A bright red handprint appeared on Yen Jinfei's face. She screamed in pain and covered her face. Her cheeks were swollen. She stared at Yiqing Luo but realized that Yiqing Luo was standing at the same spot, as though she had not moved at all. But Yiqing Luo raised her fair little hand and gently stroked it, totally indicating that this slap was from her. You're really thick-skinned, it hurts my hand. Yiqing Luo looked like she was hit inside, my poor little hand, sigh. You! Yen Jinfei's eyes were red. This slap had almost caused her teeth to fall out. It was so painful that when she moved her facial muscles slightly, she felt a tearing pain. Yiqing Luo totally didn't bother about Yen Jinfei's anger as she slowly turned her head and looked at the female student on the side. The female student subconsciously covered her face filled with horror. How on earth did Yiqing Luo's slap land on her? They totally didn't see Yiqing Luo moving at all. Yiqing Luo. Lu Xuelan's expression wasn't too good as her forced smile froze on her face. Although Yiqing Luo's slap landed on Yen Jinfei's face. Chapter 408. Yiqing Luo sneered, I don't have a good temper, don't come and provoke me if you don't have the ability, otherwise I'll beat up whoever comes. Lu Xuelan narrowed her eyes as her eerie gaze sized up Yiqing Luo's hand. 2 days ago, she had heard Yiqing Jian mention that Yiqing Luo was the one who trained the intruders in the forest. She had just become the acting vice president, and such a huge incident had already happened. If the news spread to the elder quarters, Elder Yunxiang would not be the only one to suffer, she would as well. Yesterday there was the matter of an outside assassin trying to assassinate Yiqing Luo, causing the academy's students to be on tenterhooks as they started to question the academy's safety. There were even some students from the high profound class who didn't keep their mouths shut and revealed the trespassers. They were all guessing if the intruders that day were these assassins. In this time of panic, the students placed their hopes on the faculty council. Lu Xuelan was also very anxious. If the intruders were killers, then those intruders absolutely had nothing to do with Yiqing Luo. Especially when they heard Sheng Wanfangyi mention that when they tested Yiqing Luo obviously didn't seem to have suffered any internal injury, and even gave Yiqing Jian a good thrashing. Today she heard that Yiqing Luo had been punished by the instructors, and had agreed with Intermediate Profound Class 2's class monitor, Xia Yan, that Devil class would join in the interclass competition 8 months later. He became even more suspicious. Under Yen Jinfei's invitation, Lu Xuelan decided to come to the library to take a look. To test if Yiqing Luo was injured, and at the same time, to rope Yiqing Luo in to get rid of Lu Xueyu completely. What Lu Xuelan had not expected was that Yiqing Luo totally didn't fall for her tricks. Yiqing Luo, you've offended so many people, I'd like to see what other backing you have and how long you can stay in the Heavenly Academy. Lu Xuelan's beautiful eyes were gloomy as she stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Since they couldn't be allies, they were enemies. Anyway, Yiqing Luo and Lu Xueyu's relationship was like fire and water, so she wasn't worried that Yiqing Luo would join hands with Lu Xueyu. Lu Xuelan snorted coldly. Just when she was about to leave, she heard the administrator's loud voice coming from the second floor, students of the high profound class, just read your books, don't keep yelling. If you don't want to read, then scram. As he spoke, the administrator walked over. On seeing Yiqing Luo, that incomparably fierce face revealed anger. It's you again. What are you doing in the library all day long? Seeing the administrator appear, a cunning look flashed across Yen Jinfei's eyes. The hostility between her brows immediately disappeared, and she put on a pitiful look. She covered her face and sobbed softly, "Administrator, we just came here to look for some cultivation books to read. Classmate Yi beat me up without any explanation. Vice President Dai and classmate Fong were just standing up for me, so their voices were a little louder." Hearing Yan Zhenfei's words and seeing the handprint on her face, the administrator's face darkened. He directly stretched out his hand towards Yi Qing Luo as he tugged her collar. "A student like you, my library pavilion doesn't welcome you. Making trouble all day long, get out of here. I'll talk to your instructor later and ask him not to throw people into the library when he punishes you." But just as his hand was about to grab Yi Qing Luo's collar, a white shadow flashed past. The administrator hadn't managed to react in time when his wrist instantly turned numb. He clutched his arm and didn't make any sound, but his face was filled with agony. It was so painful that his face turned pale, as he broke out in cold sweat. He clenched his teeth, enduring the pain as he looked at the thing which had struck his wrist. A white porcelain bottle fell onto the floor, as it shook slightly. That was a porcelain bottle which stored pills. This porcelain bottle. Why did it look a little like? Chapter 409. The door of the alchemy room, which had always been tightly shut, was now half open. The dazzling luminous pearl cast a long shadow. Ghost Doctor was filled with a vicious aura as he stood at the entrance with a gloomy expression, his gaze staring eerily in the direction of Yi Qing Luo and the others. The administrator lowered his head in fear. "Lord Ghost Doctor." The three female students beside him had been in the academy for many years, so they had naturally heard of the rumors about the Ghost Doctor. They also knew that the medicine refining room was a forbidden area on the second floor of the library. Whether it was the high profound class or the class of gods, no one was allowed to step into the forbidden area. Because of this, no one had ever seen the Ghost Doctor herself. When he heard the administrator's shout, his eyes immediately widened. How lucky were they today, to actually meet the elusive Ghost Doctor. Lu Shuelon was the first to react. She hurriedly dragged the two female students behind her and lowered her head towards the Ghost Doctor. "Lord Ghost Doctor." The Ghost Doctor's face was dark and cold, her gaze was like a sharp knife as she stared coldly at the administrator. The administrator felt goosebumps all over his body as he broke out in a cold sweat. Lord Ghost Doctor, I'm really sorry. I've let a few ignorant students disturb your refinement. I'll chase them out right now." The administrator thought that the Ghost Doctor's rage was entirely because these students had interrupted his concoction. Enduring the sharp pain in his wrist, he grabbed another student with each hand and walked out. But when his hand stretched out towards Yi Qing Luo once again, Ghost Doctor's porcelain bottle struck his wrist once again. It was precisely in the same position. This time, it was so painful that the manager cried out on the spot. He clutched his wrist and looked at the Ghost Doctor with a face full of fear and confusion. When Lu Shuelon and the others saw this, they did not dare to make a sound. They lowered their heads, hoping that their presence would be reduced to the minimum. "Come here." The Ghost Doctor's voice was ice cold, his gaze cold. The administrator's sturdy body suddenly trembled. The sharp pain in his arm caused his face to contort in pain. Hearing the Ghost Doctor's words, no matter how scared he was, he didn't dare to retort. Lifting his feet, he walked towards the Ghost Doctor. But, a slender figure was even faster than him and walked in front of him. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps were light and graceful, as though there wasn't a single bit of fear or terror, nor did she tremble from the powerful pressure that Ghost Doctor had unleashed. She walked straight towards the Ghost Doctor, openly. "Hey! Get back here!" That was the Ghost Doctor. If you offend the Ghost Doctor, even if you die 10 times, it won't be enough to compensate. The manager's face instantly turned pale. He had been a librarian in the academy for decades and had always been in charge of the library. Naturally, he knew the Ghost Doctor's temper and personality. He hated trouble and didn't think about the academy at all. There was once a student who kept pestering him to learn the skills of refining medicine, but was beaten out by the ghost doctor with a single palm strike. That student was seriously injured and had to leave the academy. Later on, it was said that he had completely become a cripple. However, the one who made the move was the ghost doctor. That student's family did not dare to cause trouble for the academy. Student Yi. The administrator saw Yi Qing Luo walking towards ghost doctor's direction in a daze. He endured the pain in his wrist as he dashed forward, trying to pull Yi Qing Luo back. Although he didn't have any good impression of Yi Qing Luo, but she was after all a student of the academy, and as a senior figure in the academy, he wasn't willing to see any student getting hurt. But, the scene in front of him caused the administrator to suddenly stop in his tracks. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. He saw Yi Qing Luo walking in front of Ghost Doctor and nodding her head slightly at him, Senior Ghost Doctor. Chapter 410. The administrator and the 3 female students behind him were all stunned. Especially the administrator. His mouth was agape as his face was filled with disbelief. Had he developed an auditory hallucination, developing hallucinations? Sir Ghost Doctor actually didn't slap that student out. He actually used such an amiable tone to speak to that student. If Yi Qing Luo knew the administrator's inner thoughts, she would probably ridicule endlessly. Damn it. This is called amiable. This fiendish look, as though I owe him 1,800,000 coins, this is also called amiable. However, in the administrator's eyes, he was used to seeing how Ghost Doctor ruthlessly slapped one after another. Ghost Doctor didn't take any action and only said a few words, which was already considered as the most amiable. Who asked my disciple to scram out? Ghost Doctor's vision shifted away from Yi Qing Luo, locking onto the administrator. When the administrator heard the 2 words, disciple, he was instantly struck by lightning from a clear sky. His ears were filled with the sound of thunder exploding. Not only him, Lu Shuelon, Yan Zhenfei and the others also had a look as though they had seen a ghost. Yi Qing Luo was Ghost Doctor's disciple? How could that be possible? Lu Shuelon was just hooting, saying that Yi Qing Luo no longer had any backing and now a Ghost Doctor appeared. She felt as though her face was being slapped. Her hands, which were hanging by the side of her body, clenched tightly into fists. Why was Yi Qing Luo so lucky? What mysterious and noble people all became her backing? First it was the Overlord, then it was Guiyu, and now a Ghost Doctor. Lu Shuelon was so hateful that her lungs were about to explode. But on her face, she didn't dare to reveal any of it. The administrator's well-built body kept trembling as his voice trembled. Ghost, Sir Ghost Doctor, I didn't know that student Yi is your disciple. How would I dare to ask her to scram? Ghost Doctor gave a cold laugh. The administrator trembled even more violently. He suddenly slapped his own face. Left and right slaps, the strength was huge. 2 slaps and his entire face swelled up. Sir Ghost Doctor, the one who spoke rudely was me, the one who had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai is also me, it has nothing to do with these students. The administrator raised his head, and after meeting the Ghost Doctor's eyes, he immediately lowered his head again. I beg Lord Ghost Doctor, please release this group of students. When Lu Shuelon heard this, her face immediately turned pale. She dragged the 2 female students and knelt on the ground. Yes. This matter has nothing to do with us. It was the administrator who told student Yi to get out. We don't know anything. These words really made one's heart turn cold. The administrator only glanced at them, and also knelt down. It's my fault, I beg Lord Ghost Doctor to let these students go. Yi Qing Luo slowly narrowed her eyes as she swept past Lu Shuelon and the others who were kneeling on the ground, as she sneered. This smile seemed exceptionally clear and ethereal in the empty library, adding some mysteriousness to it. The ghost doctor turned her head and glanced at her, her expression cold. Then, she said lightly, "Since you spoke rudely, you have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Why do you still need this mouth and this pair of eyes?" Hearing these words, the manager's face instantly turned pale. Lu Shuelon, who was kneeling on the ground, turned soft, as she was so frightened that she directly knelt down on the ground. The administrator glanced sideways at the three frightened students behind him, as he clenched his teeth. "Yes, spoke rudely, you have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. This mouth, this pair of eyes, indeed cannot be kept." Saying that, he raised his hand and congealed a burst of profound qi, as he stabbed towards his own eyes. Chapter 411. Dong! A soft sound was heard and the administrator gave a muffled groan. Lu Shuelon and the others slowly opened their eyes and saw a bewitching red glow flashing past. That was Yi Qing Luo's feather fan, like a ball of blazing fire, forming an arc in mid-air as it returned to Yi Qing Luo's hand. Whereas the administrator who was struck by that feather fan earlier, his sturdy body was on the verge of collapsing onto the ground. Disciple is not satisfied with the way you handled this. Ghost Doctor squinted his eyes as he stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo waved her feather fan and pressed against her lower lip as she casually brushed past the administrator and gave a faint laugh. "Since administrator has already admitted his mistake, then let's just forget about this matter." Ghost Doctor gave a cold laugh. The administrator laid on the ground as his clothes were soaked in sweat. He trembled as he climbed up and was just about to continue kneeling when he heard Ghost Doctor's cold voice, "Still not going to scram." The administrator was stunned as his eyes revealed a look of ecstasy. In other words, Ghost Doctor had let him off. He immediately kowtowed on the ground. "Thank you, Sir Ghost Doctor, thank you, Student Yi." Saying that, he got up and dragged the three female students as he speedily left the second story of the library pavilion, not daring to stay any longer. Yi Qing Luo saw the administrator leaving and cupped her fists towards Ghost Doctor. "Thank you, Senior Ghost Doctor, for stepping forward." "Humph." Ghost Doctor flicked his sleeves as he turned around and walked into the pill refining room. Yi Qing Luo rubbed her nose as she followed him in. She was very curious. Why would the Ghost Doctor, who had always hated trouble, get involved in such a dispute? Just a single disagreement and he would lose his mouth and eyes, so brutal and bloody. Stand up for her. It seemed like in Ghost Doctor's heart, she hadn't reached the level where he would stand up for her. After Ghost Doctor entered the pill refining room, he stared eerily at Yi Qing Luo as his half-squinted eyes revealed a sense of scrutiny. Yi Qing Luo's hair stood on end from his stare as she had a taste of the administrator's feeling earlier and it wasn't a good feeling. "Why did you help him?" After a while, Ghost Doctor asked coldly. "Help him?" Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes in puzzlement as she realized that he was referring to the administrator. "No reason, I just feel that the Academy's elders who are thinking for the students are worthy of respect." Yi Qing Luo replied calmly. Seeing that the administrator was even willing to destroy his own eyes so that Lu Shuelon and the others could leave unscathed, this action made Yi Qing Luo recall that when she walked towards Ghost Doctor, he had also disregarded Ghost Doctor's prestige and wanted to go up to stop her. This action aroused her compassion. Although the administrator was a little fierce and his words were a little harsh, his heart for the sake of the students was sincere. In this dirty academy, there was still someone with such a pure heart. Yi Qing Luo respected him. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's reply, Ghost Doctor gave a cold harumph. "You're rather kind." "Kind?" Yi Qing Luo smiled in disbelief. Perhaps, the current her was indeed much more soft-hearted than before. This word had nothing to do with her in the past. But ever since she came to this strange world and met people who melted the ice in her heart, she was indeed living more and more like a human. However, she liked her current self very much. At least he had flesh and blood, and he had his own feelings. Unlike before, he was like a cold killing machine, living like that. Her lips curled as she smiled. Isn't Senior Ghost Doctor the same as well? Even if I don't open my mouth to stop him, I'm afraid Senior will stop him. Ghost Doctor's expression was icy cold as he didn't open his mouth to rebuke. Chapter 412. The Ghost Doctor stared at the beautiful young lady in front of him. Her smile was very bright, without any impurities, clean and pure. A pair of curved, enchanting eyes were overflowing with color. Recalling what happened earlier, when Yiqing Luo was facing the administrator and the other 3 female students, she was calm and unperturbed in the face of danger, her brows loosened slightly. This young lady was getting more and more interesting. His eyes flashed, and he narrowed his sharp eyes. I thought I had already answered! Yiqing Luo was shocked, so Ghost Doctor also knew cold humor. She choked on her saliva and coughed violently. She opened her eyes wide and stared fixedly at the Ghost Doctor. The Ghost Doctor's expression hadn't changed from start to finish. Only her eyes had narrowed slightly, revealing a cold glint. Yiqing Luo shuddered. Senior Ghost Doctor's meaning is, you're really prepared to take me in as your disciple? Do I look like someone who jokes? The Ghost Doctor snorted coldly. Yiqing Luo shook her head immediately. It didn't look like it. Absolutely not at all. That meant, the Ghost Doctor really wanted to take her as his disciple. However, after these 2 days of interaction, she felt that the Ghost Doctor's impression of her wasn't that good. She was just a dispensable existence. When she came back from lunch, she also had a fierce look on her face. Why did he suddenly seem like a different person? Strange. It was too strange. There was definitely a trap. Yiqing Luo was vigilant, her eyes were like torches. Senior Gui, just say what you want to say. We're honest people and don't do underhanded things. The Ghost Doctor's eyebrows twitched. As expected, taking in disciples was simply too troublesome. Especially when he was taking in such a weird little girl. He frowned and did not want to get himself into trouble again. He directly asked the question he wanted to ask. Where did you learn the secret technique you used before? Secret technique? Yiqing Luo's expression congealed. Could it be that when he used teleportation just now, the Ghost Doctor had seen him? He wanted to learn about this secret technique from her. Was that why he appeared to help her when the administrator chased her away? That secret technique, if I'm not mistaken, should be the King of Thieves' teleportation secret technique. The Ghost Doctor's eyes narrowed, sharp and incisive. Teleportation secret technique. The Ghost Doctor would never make a mistake. Even if tens of thousands of years had passed, he would never forget it. These were their brothers from back then. He stopped his train of thought, his eyes revealing a bit of urgency. If he was able to find out the origin of the secret art from Yiqing Luo, perhaps he might be able to find those few brothers of his. But Ghost Doctor's words had already blocked Yiqing Luo's way out. For the Ghost Doctor to be able to accurately name the secret technique, as well as the creator of this secret technique, she naturally had a deep understanding of secret techniques. Yiqing Luo shouldn't try to use rubbish to bluff him. Yiqing Luo muttered to herself for a moment as she pursed her pink lips slightly, secretly guessing how she should explain the origin of the blink movement's secret art. She naturally couldn't tell anyone about the Azure Dew bracelets. After all, this thing did not belong to this world. Moreover, if news of this were to spread, with her current strength, she would have no way of guarding the Azure Dew bracelet. After pondering for some time, Yiqing Luo decisively decided to drag that evildoer of hers out. Soldiers are trained for a day to be used in a moment. If she didn't make use of Dmo Xian's identity now, when would she be able to do so? She nodded her head as she gave a bashful smile. That is indeed the blink movement's secret art. I have some friendship with the Overlord and he felt that my profound grade is too low, making me easily bullied, so he taught me this secret art, so that I can use it to escape. The ghost doctor's brows creased. Overlord. Yiqing Luo nodded her head repeatedly. That's right, it's DMO Xian. Decisively aim her target at DMO Xian. The ghost doctor remained silent as his eyelids drooped down, muttering softly, Overlord. Overlord. After muttering for some time, he raised his head with an agitated look as his brows creased. You're talking about that Imperial Palace's palace lord who had recently risen. People call him Overlord, DMO Xian. What? There was actually someone in this world who didn't know DMO Xian. Chapter 413. This so-called legend, wasn't it something which everyone in the world didn't know about and knew about? She thought that Ghost Doctor was talking about DMO Xian because he was afraid of DMO Xian's power. She had not expected. Ghost Doctor was thinking, who on earth was DMO Xian? Alright, Ghost Doctor's world only consisted of refining pills and no other miscellaneous stuff. The next time you see that fellow from the Imperial Palace, ask him to come and see me. Ghost Doctor's next sentence was shocking. Yiqing Luo's mouth turned into an O shape once again. He was indeed Ghost Doctor, even when facing DMO Xian, he totally disregarded him. No, now wasn't the time to be tangled about whether Ghost Doctor recognized DMO Xian or not, but Ghost Doctor wanted to meet DMO Xian. Then wouldn't the matter of her pushing the blame to DMO Xian be exposed? But since Ghost Doctor had already said so, Yiqing Luo could only brace herself as she gave a few dry laughs. No problem, Senior Ghost Doctor's request, even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames, I will definitely do it for you. The blame which she pushed out, even if she had to kneel down, she had to push it down. Towards Yiqing Luo's talkative words, Ghost Doctor's expression didn't change at all. His gaze swept across the pill refining room and discovered that not only were the medicinal cabinets pasted neatly with medicinal herbs' names, even the messy bookshelves were stacked neatly. It had only been a few hours. This young lady's actions were rather fast. It seemed like she knew a lot about medicine refinement. Today, because he saw Yiqing Luo displaying her blink movement secret art, he appeared to help her out of her predicament, saying that he would take her in as his disciple. But at this moment, he felt that his decision was simply right. Although it was a little troublesome, but if he took in a young lady with an extremely strong innate talent in pill refining, then it would save a lot of time in future. Alright, that's all for today, you can go back now. When Ghost Doctor turned his head back, he resumed his cold and aloof look. Saying that, he seemed to have thought of something as his brows creased into a bundle. Take your hand out. Yiqing Luo didn't know what was going on, but she still stretched out her hand. Ghost Doctor placed his hand on her pulse and helped to take her pulse. Your body's recovery ability isn't bad at all. If there's no accident, take another medicinal pill tonight and you'll be able to recover completely. Ghost Doctor took her pulse and casually waved Yiqing Luo's hand away. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as her face revealed joy. He thought that he would need 3 to 5 days to fully recover, but he didn't expect that he would be completely healed tonight. The Ghost Doctor's elixirs, as well as the heaven and earth spiritual qi in the spiritual qi treasured land, were of great help to her internal injuries. Tomorrow, the academy will be on holiday for 3 days. Memorize all these books. Ghost Doctor walked to the front of the bookshelf and his gaze swept across the neatly arranged bookshelf as he casually picked out 3 books and threw them towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo caught it firmly and lowered her head to take a look. Of these 3 books, one was an introduction to rare medicinal herbs and their locations, another was a recipe for medicinal pills, and the last one was the detailed steps of refining medicinal pills. It was an entry-level book for refining medicine. Although the current Yiqing Luo had already reached the alchemist level of refining pills, but she was after all a half-baked alchemist and her alchemy foundation was still not enough. These books could help her consolidate her foundation. No matter what, no matter how talented one was, one's foundation was the most important. If one's foundation wasn't strong enough, even if one reached the peak, as long as someone pushed slightly from below, it was very likely that they would fall. It was like building a house. If the foundation wasn't strong enough, if there was an earthquake or a strong gale, this house would easily collapse. Yiqing Luo nodded her head as she kept those 3 books. Chapter 4:14. When Yiqing Luo walked down from the first story of the library pavilion, the administrator who had been fidgeting restlessly at the management counter immediately went up to welcome her. That fierce and rough face now carried a cautious expression. "Yi, classmate Yi." When the surrounding students saw this, they all revealed a puzzled expression. Why was the administrator so respectful towards Yiqing Luo? As though he was afraid of Yiqing Luo. This must be a misconception. One must know that the library pavilion administrator was famous for his bad temper. He would shout at the students if there was any disagreement, and almost half of the students in the academy had been ravaged by his rough voice, which was like a bell. But now, he was actually being so submissive in front of a new student, and a new student from Devil class. Yiqing Luo noticed the surrounding students' gazes and knew that Lu Xuelan and the others were so frightened that they left directly, so she didn't dare to reveal the fact that she was Ghost Doctor's disciple. After all, Lu Xuelan and the others hated Yiqing Luo to the core. They were very clear that Yiqing Luo had many enemies, so how could they possibly reveal the fact that Ghost Doctor was backing her up? Yiqing Luo retracted her gaze and curled her lips towards the administrator. "Everything will be fine as usual." The administrator responded and stood up to send Yiqing Luo out. This action attracted many students' guesses. After Yiqing Luo walked out of the library pavilion, she headed towards the Devil class's direction. It was nearing the time for Devil class's training. Yiqing Luo was thinking about the matter of accepting the intermediate profound class to participate in the class confrontation. Although Qiao Jin had already agreed to it, but Long Yunzhan was after all Devil class's class monitor, so she still had to talk to him about it. The minute she entered the second door, she heard a lady's crisp voice coming from the training ground. "Your battle power isn't bad at all. Do you want to come again?" This voice sounded unfamiliar. Devil class had new students again. On the training ground, most of the students had already arrived. Everyone didn't warm up like usual, but gathered in a circle, as though their emotions were ignited, as they waved their arms and shouted. Indistinctly, there were some low shouts and collision sounds from a fight. Not long later, 2 figures were seen flying out from the crowd, as they rolled onto the ground. The students who had gathered in a circle were shouting excitedly, as they complained to the students who had been sent flying. The 2 students rubbed their waists and waved their hands. "No more, no more. We're convinced." Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, and coincidentally, because those 2 students were sent flying, the students started to move to the 2 sides, opening up a path. Yiqing Luo saw a petite young lady dressed in the academy uniform being wrapped up by the crowd. With one hand on her waist, her delicate and exquisite face revealed a complacent smile. Her pitch-black watery eyes flashed with the craftiness of a cat. Yiqing Luo frowned. This was not a student from the Devil class. But, he looked a little familiar. Just as she was about to step forward to inquire about the situation, Yiqing Luo's chest suddenly surged with a scorching feeling. Her profound heart jade actually started to burn brilliantly in her chest. She stopped in her tracks and covered her chest. Looking at that young lady again, Yiqing Luo was stunned. He was so stunned that he even forgot the burning sensation in his chest. Behind the young girl, a black shadow rose up, like a guardian god, closely following the young girl. What shocked Yiqing Luo the most was, that black shadow was a gigantic phantom of a beast, faintly discernible. That was a cat, a pitch-black agile cat. Glass Luo, that is the bloodline of the beast man race. In her mind, Old Man Sung's voice was heard, after the beast-man race transform into human form, every time they battle, they will summon their own bloodline, and this is also the bloodline which the contractor will inherit. Chapter 4:15. Old Man Tsung's voice was low. Generally speaking, humans can't see that shadow. If the shadow is seen and the enemy directly attacks it, it will cause damage to the original body. His voice revealed some doubt. How can you see the black cat shadow? Yiqing Luo also had doubts in her heart. All of a sudden, her profound heart jade became incomparably hot. When she looked at that young girl again, she could already see the black cat shadow. Could it be related to the profound heart jade? This profound heart jade did not refer to the profound heart jade that Dmo Xian had formed for her. Because it seemed that before Dmo Xian formed the profound heart jade for her, she could already see through the profound grades of Yuchiya and the other trash, as well as the profound heart jade level. And every time, this kind of heat would be transmitted from her chest. What exactly was going on? The young girl in the crowd, because she had defeated many students, was feeling proud of herself when she felt someone staring at her. Following the gaze, when she saw Yiqing Luo's face, the young girl smiled even more brilliantly. Elder sister, I finally see you." That young girl skipped and dashed towards Yiqing Luo. That pair of watery cat-like eyes sparkled with obvious excitement. Yiqing Luo discovered that when the young girl ran over, the black cat shadow behind her gradually disappeared. It seemed that only during battle, this bloodline shadow would appear to provide the young girl with strength. The young girl's hand, hooked onto Yiqing Luo's arm. "Elder sister, thanks to you saving me, I was able to escape this calamity. Kitty has nothing to repay you. From now on I will always follow by elder sister's side and protect elder sister." The young girl's soft hand and that intimate aura, Yiqing Luo didn't have the slightest bit of repulsion. That pair of black eyes overflowing with starlight didn't have the slightest bit of hypocrisy. The beast man races little cat beast. Where were her ears? And that tail? Yiqing Luo's gaze swept over her head and indeed saw that her two black furry ears were hidden under her hair, and that black tail behind her was also curled up, hidden under her uniform. From this look, she was no different from a human. "Oh right, elder sister, I still haven't introduced myself." The young girl smiled sweetly, her eyes sparkling with a lively luster. "My name is Kitty Li. It's Li as in Lioli, not Li as in fox." She tilted her head and smiled. "Big sister, you can call me Kitty big sister, you don't have to introduce yourself." "I know big sister, you're a really, really amazing person. All the big brothers and sisters in the class really admire big sister." Hearing Kitty Li's words, the surrounding students turned their faces away in embarrassment. No one had expected that Kitty Li would actually say out those words about them worshipping Yiqing Luo behind her back, right in front of her face. Looking at those students' distressed looks, Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly softened. A hint of gentleness also appeared on her beautiful face. Her delicate facial features were extremely gentle. It could be said that she was a peerless beauty. The surrounding students were dumbfounded for a moment. "Sister, you're so beautiful." Kitty Li's curved eyebrows revealed envy as she rubbed her head against Yiqing Luo's arm. "Kitty Cat likes beautiful sister. Do you want to contract Kitty Cat?" The soft touch on his arm was like a kitten rubbing against him. Contract her. This was the reason why Yiqing Luo chose to save her right from the start. To be able to contract a beast man and obtain the cat beast's bloodline inheritance, her own strength would also receive a huge upgrade. According to the current situation, Kitty Li's ability seemed to be not bad. She was actually able to challenge several students alone. Then why was she in the heavenly training forest and met with the evil schemes of the high profound class students? Chapter 4:16. Contract. The surrounding students looked at each other in dismay. They only knew that the contract was used on magical beasts. Could it be that humans could contract as well? Everyone didn't think too much about it, only thinking that this young lady wanted to follow beside Yiqing Luo, to be her follower. Who on earth are you? Suddenly, a cold voice was heard from the other end of the training ground. Tong Ziqing's expression was icy cold, her brows knitted into a bundle as she stared at Kitty Lee with vigilance. From the skills you displayed today, your profound grade must be above Mystic Profound 6th grade. And you don't panic in the face of danger, so you should be someone who is used to fighting. Most importantly, your speed is not wrong, and your reaction is extremely strong. Why would you be caught by the high profound class students in the heavenly training forest, and look so weak? Tong Ziqing's words completely voiced out the doubts in Yiqing Luo's heart. Tong Ziqing didn't understand why Yiqing Luo risked being found out by the high profound class students to save Kitty Lee. Moreover, Yiqing Luo was seriously injured by Yiqing Qian's earth profound grade pressure, and all this was because of Kitty Lee. If it wasn't for Kitty Lee, Yiqing Luo wouldn't be seriously injured, and wouldn't be tested by Yiqing Qian, and wouldn't be punished by the instructors to tidy up the books in the library pavilion, and wouldn't be so helpless when facing the killers. Yiqing Luo's current reputation in the academy made her angry. If it wasn't for the assistant class monitor who had been persuading everyone, she might not be able to hold it in and directly beat up those people who were spreading rumors. Kitty Lee let go of Yiqing Luo's arm, tilted her head and blinked her bright and crafty eyes, because Kitty Lee is hungry. Hungry? What kind of excuse was that? Everyone couldn't believe it, but Kitty Lee explained seriously. Kitty Lee was locked in that lousy forest the minute she arrived at Nirvana Realm, and had nothing to eat. Kitty Lee has been hungry for a long time. As she said that, she used her hands to gesture to open it up, and repeated, "So long," several times. Kitty Lee is so hungry that she can't move. How would she have the energy to run? That group of ferocious people couldn't see how cute Kitty was, so they beat Kitty up without any explanation. Kitty Lee's pink lips pouted slightly, showing some displeasure. If it wasn't for Big Sister saving Kitty Lee, those people would definitely want to bring Kitty Lee back to cook. Everyone was dumbfounded. What a heavy taste. Nowadays, even if there were people who ate human flesh, these students wouldn't dare to eat it in the academy. It was also because of these shocking words that the students did not pay much attention to the meaning of the words, "Just arrived in the Nirvana realm," that Kitty Lee said. Ahem. Among the students, Baiming Lu raised her hand weakly. Kitty didn't lie. When you brought her back, apart from the superficial wounds on her body, she did have an empty stomach for a long time. Tong Ziqing's expression became even more ashen. She stared at Kitty Lee for a long time before she snorted coldly and turned around to walk towards the small path of the academy. Kitty Lee, don't take it to heart, Sister Ziqing is just jealous of you. Ni Ruopan looked at the direction where Tong Ziqing left, and couldn't help but laughed. Now the one who worships Madame Qing Luo the most is Sister Ziqing. Now that she saw you monopolizing Madame Qing Luo, she doesn't feel good. Kitty Lee smiled till her eyes curved, and once again held on to Yiqing Luo's arm. I want to form a contract with Sister, and in future I will not let go of Sister. Yiqing Luo was helpless, she wasn't a man, to be snatched here and there by two beauties out of jealousy. Could it be that she wanted to kill both men and women? Activate the 3 palace and 6 courtyards mode. Chapter 4:17. Alright, the academy doesn't know how many students there are in the devil class. Since Kitty Cat is here, then stay in the devil class. Yiqing Luo rubbed Kitty Cat's head. She knew Kitty Cat's real identity so naturally she believed in Kitty Cat's innocence. Although the beast men were half human half beast, but to Old Man Tsang, the beast men basically lived alone and would not intentionally blend into the human world. Deep in their bones, they still had the purity of the beast men. It's time for training, go ahead and train. Yiqing Luo was about to head towards the academy's small path when another student called out to her from behind. Qing Luo, I heard that. You've already agreed to the interclass competition 8 months later, is that true? That student stared at Yiqing Luo eagerly as his hands were clasped together, extremely nervous. When the surrounding students heard this topic, the atmosphere instantly ignited. As Yiqing Luo was seriously injured and was assassinated by the killer, these students stayed in the academy today to ensure that Yiqing Luo was safe and sound. Because of that, they didn't know what happened in the academy today. The moment they heard the words interclass competition, the students' expressions changed. Interclass competition. This was a competition that all the classes wanted to participate in with all their might. If they were successful, they would be able to advance to a higher level class and obtain generous rewards, as well as receive the respect and admiration from everyone in the academy. More importantly, this was a proof of ability. For so many years, Devil Class's students had been hiding in the Devil Class, immersing themselves in cultivation and training to advance. Even if it was actual combat training, it would be one's own people fighting against one's own people. There was no sense of satisfaction at all. As for the Heavenly Academy's annual interclass competition, Devil Class's students wanted to take part in it so much that they almost went crazy. However, their class monitor had always rejected their requests with the excuse that the time wasn't right. Today, upon hearing that Yiqing Luo had agreed to the interclass competition 8 months later, all of them jumped up in joy, as though they wanted to leap 3 feet into the air. I have indeed agreed to it. Yiqing Luo lightly curled her lips. After the students got her affirmation, they couldn't suppress the excitement in their hearts as they rushed forward and surrounded Yiqing Luo. Just as everyone wanted to lift Yiqing Luo up and shout excitedly, they heard Yiqing Luo spitting out 2 words. But everyone's hearts were in their throats as they stared at her. As for whether I can participate or not, firstly, I still need to seek the class monitor's approval. Secondly, I still need to see if the class monitor from Class Xian, 2, Xia, can agree to my request. Thirdly, Yiqing Luo paused for a moment, her voice suddenly became much louder and revealed a tone like she was trying to abduct a little brother. This is the most important point, is within these 8 months, can your strength reach the level of surpassing the high profound class and win first place in one fell swoop? When the third point was mentioned, the smiles on all the students' faces gradually froze. All of them fell silent. If they were to win against the intermediate profound class, or tie with the high profound class, they would have full assurance and confidence. But to surpass the high profound class and win first place, one must know, if the Devil class really won the championship. The Academy would definitely allow the powerful and mysterious Devil class to participate in the competition. Chapter 4:18. If Devil class won, it would be equivalent to smearing the Heavenly Academy's name. Their original thoughts were merely to take part in the interclass competition, to go through actual combat with the students from other classes, to raise their own ability. To them, promotion or ranking wasn't important at all. What they wanted was to prove to the entire Academy's teachers and students that they weren't waste, and that they were strong enough to support the heavens. That was all. But Yiqing Luo's target was to win the championship. This to them was an extremely huge pressure. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she couldn't see the difficulty on their faces, as her voice remained calm. If you have the confidence, then work hard to raise your own training in these 8 months. Lulu and I will refine supplementary medicinal pills for you, and in terms of training, it will depend on your individual hard work and innate talent. The students became silent. They had no confidence. Do you know why I insist on you winning the championship? Just as the training grounds were in a state of silence, Yiqing Luo's clear and melodious voice rang leisurely. The students raised their heads as they looked at Yiqing Luo. Whereas at the other end of the training grounds, Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi didn't make a sound. In their hearts, Devil Class's students indeed had great growth, which was comparable to the High Profound class, but in terms of actual combat training and strategy, they were far from the High Profound class. Locking these students in Devil Class to train had its pros and cons. Just like previously, they limited these students to raising their individual ability, but neglected everyone's ability to work together as a team. Now there was another huge problem placed in front of them. The only actual combat training for these students, other than their classmates, was the magical beasts in the Heavenly Training Forest. If they were to take part in the interclass competition, to win the championship, it was probably impossible. Because you are Devil Class's students. Yiqing Luo's gaze was as calm as still water, without a single ripple. Her tone was also calm, but in that tone, there was something indistinctly, following her voice, scuttling their hearts. Devil Class is Heavenly Academy's disgrace, a waste class in everyone's eyes. If you want to clear your name, to announce to the entire continent, or even Nirvana realm, that you are not waste, the only way is. It's fine if you don't cry out, but once you cry out, it's shocking. The students' hearts seemed to have been struck by something fiercely, as they trembled slightly. Yiqing Luo's expression was indifferent and her tone was very calm. However, for some unknown reason, those 9 simple words caused their hearts to surge with excitement. The reason why I agreed to the interclass competition proposed by Class Monitor Xia is because I believe in you guys. Even I haven't given up on you, so why would you give up on yourselves? What is your dream? What was the target? You just want to be in the limelight during the interclass competition and suppress the other classes to prove that Devil Class isn't trash. What happens after that? Get beaten up by the students from the High Profound class and the Class of Gods and return to the Devil Class. Is this enough to prove his name? No. It doesn't count. If they were defeated by the High Profound class or Class of Gods, their so-called reputation would just be a joke. In the end, he suffered a crushing defeat and left the arena with his tail between his legs. Was it enough to surpass the Intermediate Profound class? No. They were not satisfied. How could he be satisfied? After being a waste for so many years, he finally managed to get into the Heavenly Academy but was assigned to a waste class where even the masters looked down on him. Just to surpass the Intermediate Profound class, how could he be satisfied? As long as you have a strong belief, believe in your own self-confidence, have your own target, and want to become a strong person who is revered by others, then give me a good answer. Chapter 419. Although the students didn't reply, but their eyes were burning with hope, as they were extremely fervent. You still have 8 months' time, and in these 8 months, we will use all means to train you. Yiqing Luo's vision finally fell onto Qiao Jin, as her lips curled into an extremely shallow arc. Qiao Jin understood her meaning, as he shrugged his shoulders indifferently, indicating to her to do whatever she wanted. Long Yunzhan had arranged Yiqing Luo into the class committee, and in this period of time, Yiqing Luo's ability was obvious to all. Now that Yiqing Luo had started to train everyone, they naturally didn't have any objections. Yiqing Luo then retracted her vision, sweat and hard work, then you can exchange for what you want. No matter how tough the future is, how difficult it is, as long as you persevere on, what awaits you will be a sky full of red clouds. When her words fell, Yiqing Luo paused for a moment. The entire training ground was so silent that even the students' hurried breathing could be heard clearly. Kitty Lee was infected by these words, as her cat-like eyes widened, as she stared at Yiqing Luo in adoration. Yiqing Luo seemed to have done it intentionally, as she gave them time to think. Approximately half a quarter of an hour later, Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards, as she said calmly, "Of course, it's useless to say all these too early. The key is whether Class Monitor Xia can accept the conditions that I raised. Train well, I'll go have a chat with class monitor. The students lowered their heads, not saying a word. It was until the moment when Yiqing Luo turned around, deafening sounds erupted from her back. We have confidence. We want to welcome the sky full of red clouds. 10 over young men and young ladies' voices were orderly and loud. In everyone's eyes, they were already disdainful waste. No matter how miserable could it be? No matter how miserable could it be? So what if they failed? They were aiming for first place to take part in the interclass competition, they just wanted to win. Yiqing Luo didn't turn back, as she could feel the passion from those young men and young ladies behind her. She strode towards the small path, as the smile on her lips grew wider and wider. On the way to the class committee room, she met Tong Ziqing, who was sitting by the side in a daze. Yiqing Luo spoke softly, as she persuaded her to return back to training, and repeated the matter of her preparing devil class to take part in the interclass competition. Although Tong Ziqing's expression was still ugly, she still obediently returned to the training ground. When Yiqing Luo reached the class committee room, she indeed saw Long Yunzhan sitting in front of the square table, bending over the table to write something. Hearing the noise, he didn't even raise his head. Sit. You know the purpose of my visit. Yiqing Luo sat opposite him. Long Yunzhan put away his brush and put it aside. You decide, I have no objections. Ever since the conversation with Yiqing Luo yesterday, Long Yunzhan was no longer disturbed by the entanglement in his heart, as he resumed his usual calm and serene self. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. Since that's the case, then I won't be unreasonable and evasive. Tomorrow is a holiday, and for the 3 days of holiday, I've decided to set up a mercenary group and let everyone take on missions. This method reminded her of the Silver Plate mercenary group she met in the magical beast forest. If these students were to form a mercenary group and take on missions from the mercenary union, this kind of training in the wild would be much more useful than training in the training grounds. Any kind of training was more effective than actual combat training. Long Yunzhan was startled, his brows slightly furrowed. Mercenary group. Yiqing Luo nodded. Long Yunzhan had never thought of bringing these students out of the academy for training. Perhaps it was because he had no memory of this world, and the only sense of security he had was Heavenly Academy. Perhaps he was worried that Devil Class's students' ability would be exposed too early. Chapter 420. Long Yunzhan pondered for a moment and slowly nodded. If it's you, there shouldn't be a problem. The underlying meaning was that he had agreed to Yiqing Luo's suggestion. However, you will still be the leader. The vice leader and the other positions will be handed over to Xiao Yi and the others. Towards her, the backbone of the students was more inclined towards Long Yunzhan. After all, Long Yunzhan was the one who had truly saved their lives. Long Yunzhan had no objections. After discussing with Long Yunzhan, Yiqing Luo headed over to the ectoplasm treasure land. According to what the ghost doctor said, she just had to take another pill tonight and her body would be completely recovered. There were only 3 days of holidays, so the devil class had to make the best use of their time and not waste any cultivation time. She had to make a full recovery before tomorrow. After entering the ectoplasm treasured land, Yiqing Luo extracted her consciousness into the azure dew bracelet. Old man Tsang checked Yiqing Luo's pulse and couldn't help but nod his head as he sighed silently. Ghost doctor. She's indeed ghost doctor. Hearing this tone, Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes. Old man Tsang, you know senior ghost doctor. Old man Tsang's hand on Yiqing Luo's wrist paused for a moment before he withdrew his hand. I don't know. You don't know him. Did he really think that she had just met him? Previously, when he'd first met the ghost doctor in the medicine refining room, old man Tsang had clearly acted as if he didn't recognize her. But ever since he heard the ghost doctor's name, his entire person seemed to have changed. In addition to this sentence, it would be strange if they didn't know him. Old Man Song saw Yi-Ching Luo staring at him with a pair of suspicious eyes. He immediately turned his head away in annoyance and lightly landed on the stone bed that was constructed from spiritual qi and laid down. Little girl, take good care of your body and cultivate. Don't ask too many questions. Since Old Man Song wasn't willing to answer, Yi-Ching Luo naturally wouldn't force him to ask. She sat cross-legged, closed her eyes, and began to mobilize the profound energy in her profound jade heart. On one hand, she cultivated, and on the other hand, she used spiritual energy to nourish her internal injuries. What she didn't know was that the moment she closed her eyes, Old Man Song, who originally had his back facing her, turned around. Spiritual qi rose in spirals, and the face under the white beard was dyed with a faint trace of melancholy. Ghost Doctor, who would have thought that the old man from the herbal sect was actually the Ghost Doctor? Could it be that it was really the will of the heavens? The next day, after Yi-Ching Luo opened her eyes, she stretched her limbs and felt relaxed. There seemed to be a flow of air flowing through her body. She felt light as a feather and didn't feel uncomfortable at all. She tried to circulate the profound qi in her body, but there was no obstruction. Her internal injuries, as well as the scars on her arm which were caused by Yi-Ching Qian's whip, had completely recovered. After coming out from the spiritual qi treasure land, the students of the devil class had already packed their belongings and were saying their goodbyes to one another, preparing to go home. The academy was on a holiday, so the last time to seal the academy gates was at noon. Because of this, the students had to pack their things early in the morning and strive to leave the academy before noon. Otherwise, they would be forcefully driven out of the academy by the guards. If one was unlucky and stayed longer than noon, it would be recorded as a minor demerit. By the time Yi-Ching Luo came out, most of the students had already said their goodbyes. On seeing Yi-Ching Luo walking over, Qiao Jin caressed his throat as he gave a light cough. The originally bustling training grounds suddenly became incomparably quiet. All the students reflexively stood in line, their backs straight as they looked at Qiao Jin. This was a habit which they had developed over the years. Yi-Ching Luo slowly walked to Qiao Jin's side, as her charming eyes swept past each and every one of those childish faces. Chapter 421. Devil class students don't have any holidays. Yi-Ching Luo's lips curled slightly as she placed her hands behind her back. Today is your free time, but tomorrow before 5 in the morning, you must report to the Mercenary Association's entrance. Mercenary Association. The students' eyes widened as they more or less guessed Yi-Ching Luo's plan. Your abilities aren't bad, but you don't have any bit of actual combat experience. Yi-Ching Luo ignored the shock in their eyes. Setting up a mercenary group and accepting missions for you to complete is the best way to increase your actual combat experience. Qiao Jin continued, as for the accommodation for these 3 days, I've already arranged it. After you leave the academy, you can move to the mansion in the west of the city. The students immediately cried out. Some were cheering while some were wailing. In the process of completing the mission, there is a possibility that you will meet other mercenary groups and compete with you for the mission items. Yi-Ching Luo's clear and melodious voice rose slightly. Her voice was gentle, but her aura suppressed the voices of the students. The outside world is not as clean as the academy. By then, if there are mercenary groups snatching items, it will be up to you to decide how you want to do it. The students tensed up. In this way, setting up a mercenary group was not only to complete missions but also to fight with other mercenary groups. Thinking about it, it made them a little excited. Our aim is not to create trouble, but we are absolutely not afraid of trouble. If you are the one who creates trouble, I will not stop Vice Class Monitor from punishing you. But if anyone dares to offend us, I will be the first to go up. The students clenched their fists as they replied valiantly, yes. It was a holiday and the academy was obviously livelier than usual. The students who came and went had excited smiles on their faces. The academy's entrance was filled with people. Those elders from the families were all here to welcome their families, hope and glory. Devil Class's students were disguised as ordinary students as they left the academy one by one. Yiqing Luo guessed that during this holiday, the Yi family would not be peaceful. She rejected the few who wanted to leave the academy with her and entrusted Kitty Li to Ni Ruo Pan. She had to admit that Yiqing Luo's intuition was very accurate. Before she reached the courtyard's entrance, she saw Yiqing Qian, who was being crowded by the crowd, smiling shyly, but her eyes were filled with unconcealable delight. A few female students gathered around her, talking about something. Yiqing Qian smiled coquettishly, covering half of her face shyly from time to time. Seeing Yiqing Luo, Yiqing Qian immediately welcomed her with a smile. "Seventh sister, let's go back together." Classmate Qing Qian, why did you drag her home with you? Although they are both daughters of the Three Springs sect, one is from the High Profound class, the other is from the Devil class. A female student beside her rolled her eyes in disgust. Exactly. If people were to see us, they would think that we are as useless as the Devil class. I don't even want to admit that such a person is a student of our academy. It's so embarrassing. Every single word around her were praising Yiqing Qian and belittling Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Qian's pair of beautiful eyes that were pretending to be gentle were filled with a complacent smile. But Yiqing Qian still rebuked the few people who were talking. "Stop talking, seventh sister is after all my sister." Chapter 422. She had been in the hospital for almost a month and hadn't seen him for a long time. If she had the time to watch Yiqing Qian act, she might as well visit Xiao Yu and care about his health. Yo, student Ye's temper isn't small, since when did we act? Don't tell me we said something wrong. Isn't the Devil class a waste class? Did you think that you're not waste just because you were in the limelight during the freshman training? Aren't you still being punished by the instructors to the extent that you can't even take part in the training? Devil class is a waste class and you still want to take part in the interclass competition 8 months later. I wonder what face you have to say such a thing. Heavenly Academy will be destroyed in the hands of you waste sooner or later. One after another, ridiculing voices made the surrounding students cast their gazes over. The position they were standing at was coincidentally not far from the entrance of the courtyard. Those parents who came to fetch their sons and daughters also looked over when they heard these students' words. When their gazes fell onto Yiqing Luo, they were all stunned by this lady's looks. But hearing that she was a student of Devil class, no matter how beautiful her looks were, it was obliterated by the 3 words Devil class. Towards other people's gazes, Yiqing Luo had never put it to heart. Yiqing Luo's gaze sunk slightly as her lips curled into a sneer. She pinched her own hand and twisted her neck. "Looks like you all missed the taste of my fist." Hearing the cracking sound of Yiqing Luo's bones, these female students' faces turned pale as they subconsciously hid behind Yiqing Qian. This action made Yiqing Luo scoff coldly. "Even a waste is so afraid. You intermediate profound class students are merely so." Saying that, she walked past these few people and walked out of the courtyard. Yiqing Qian's gentle brows creased slightly as she scolded these useless female students in her heart. Seeing that Yiqing Luo had already walked out of the courtyard, Yiqing Qian immediately chased after her. Before she could call out to Yiqing Luo, she heard a clear voice coming from the front, "Qing Qian." Yiqing Qian's heart trembled as her face revealed a joyful expression as she raised her beautiful eyes and looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw Ling Fenghua standing in front of a luxurious carriage. And in front of the carriage, there was a row of imperial guards. It looked extremely eye-catching. He had gained a lot of face. Yiqing Qian's face was flushed with shyness as her pair of beautiful eyes were about to burst into tears. The female student beside her covered her chest with both hands and teased, "Classmate Qing Qian, I told you His Royal Highness would come. Look, what an extravagant show. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is so handsome and powerful. He treats Qingqian so well that I can't find any fault with him. Student Qingqian, since His Highness the Crown Prince personally came to the academy to pick you up, does that mean your wedding date is near? Yi Qingqian's delicate face turned even redder as she stomped her feet. What nonsense are you talking about? Like a little girl, she shyly broke away from the hands of the female students and jogged towards Ling Fenghua. The female students behind her knew that she was in a good mood, so they became bolder and teased her. What nonsense are you talking about? Look at how excited you are to see your sweetheart. Your Highness. Yi Qingqian trotted forward, a pair of beautiful eyes rippling like spring water. She was panting when her feet seemed to have bumped into something as she suddenly staggered and cried out in surprise. Ling Fenghua stretched out his hand and coincidentally caught Yi Qingqian in his arms. Slow down, you're in such a hurry. If others saw you, they would only think that you're the eldest miss of the Yi family who doesn't know etiquette. Although he said so, but the pampering in his tone was obvious. Chapter 423. Ling Fenghua's identity was outstanding, and he had put on such a big show. At the crowded entrance of the academy, the gazes of countless people were basically gathered on Ling Fenghua. There were also many family elders who wanted to greet Ling Fenghua after seeing him, but they were stopped by the imperial guards. At this moment, on seeing Yi Qingqian and Ling Fenghua's lovey-dovey look, everyone could see it clearly. It was only the academy's holiday, yet Ling Fenghua had set up such a grand display, and even personally welcomed them. Everyone was guessing that the Three Springs sect and the royal family, were they preparing for marriage? Everyone then recalled what the female student had said earlier, and they all nodded in agreement. This was indeed the déjà vu of the wedding day approaching. Yi Qingqian could feel the envious gazes from the surrounding, feeling that she was like the moon surrounded by stars. Everyone was surrounding her, praising her, envying her. She enjoyed this feeling too much. The depths of Yi Qingqian's eyes were filled with a complacent expression. However, the expression on her face was still as gentle as a spring breeze. With a voice as gentle as water, she said softly, "Your Highness is busy with official business. In fact, there is no need for you to personally," before he could finish his words. Her soft and delicate body that was stuck close to Ling Fenghua was pushed away by Ling Fenghua. The man's handsome face lowered his eyes to look at her. Yi Qingqian looked away shyly. Her voice was soft and charming. "Your Highness, you're so annoying. Where is Qing Luo?" These two voices sounded at the same time. Before Yi Qingqian's tempting ending tone could hook up, she heard Ling Fenghua's question. The smile on his face froze. Seeing Yi Qingqian not replying for a long time, Ling Fenghua narrowed his eyes and repeated once again, "Qian, where's Qing Luo?" "Your Highness, why are you looking for seventh sister?" Yi Qingqian quickly regained her senses and suppressed the displeasure in her heart, maintaining the gentle smile on her face. Ling Fenghua curled his thin lips, but his eyes were fixed on a certain spot in the crowd. Suddenly, he raised his voice and raised his voice. "She is this prince's future crown princess. This prince naturally came to take her home." This time round, the smile on Yi Qingqian's face couldn't be maintained. Her face turned extremely pale in an instant. Her soft body trembled uncontrollably. Ling Fenghua's words were like a ruthless slap on her face. The beating was loud and clear. Ling Fenghua's voice was extremely loud. Like a clap of thunder, it exploded in everyone's ears. The information contained in these words was really huge. Could it be that Ling Fenghua's extravagance today was not to pick up Yi Qingqian, but to pick up the Yi family's seventh young miss who had been a waste for more than 10 years? Only then did everyone remember that Ling Fenghua and the Yi clan's trash seventh young miss were engaged by the monarch himself. Then, Yiqing Jian actually ran over like a butterfly the minute she saw Ling Fenghua, and even hooked onto his arm. What was she trying to do? Earlier Yiqing Qian's bunch of lackeys said that the crown prince was a perfect man and the wedding date was nearing. What were they up to? Everyone's gazes towards Yiqing Qian had changed from the original envy to disdain and ridicule. The number one beauty of Three Springs City was quite pretty, and her cultivation talent was strong too. However, his character was so low. Chapter 424. Eldest Miss Yi has indeed hooked up with the Crown Prince. The last time eldest Miss Yi went to the public square to find trouble with student Yiqing Luo, student Yiqing Luo said that there was something going on between them. At that time I didn't think so, but now I've seen it with my own eyes. This atmosphere, this stance, they must have hooked up for more than 3 years. Shoo, lower your voice, if the Crown Prince hears this, we'll be the unlucky ones. They can even do such a thing, are they afraid that we'll say anything? Look at them, they're already stuck together. The surrounding students muttered softly, as they rushed towards Ling Fenghua's direction, pointing and gossiping. After Ling Fenghua raised his voice and said that sentence, he regretted it. But the words had already been said, and there were so many people who heard it, it was impossible to take it back. At this moment, the surrounding people's gazes were like needles, staring at him, as they described the matter between him and Yiqing Qian, in an extremely filthy manner. Although Ling Fenghua and Yiqing Qian had indeed hooked up for many years. However, this was their private matter. Now that it was brought out in front of so many people, he, the crown prince of a country, was completely disgraced. Especially now that the royal family was in turmoil, this stain of his could possibly affect his position as the crown prince. Thinking of this, Ling Fenghua couldn't wait to give himself a big slap. He had always been cautious in his words and actions, and was very clear that any words and actions could possibly be used against him by the enemy. But he had not expected, today, in front of so many people, he had committed such a lowly mistake. The Academy's entrance was not only filled with people from the West Continent, nor were they only from influential families. From all over the world, there were people with all kinds of statuses in Nirvana realm. Today's topic would definitely spread at an extremely fast speed in the entire Nirvana realm. Ling Fenghua's heart was crying out in frustration, as his gloomy face suddenly pushed Yiqing Qian away. His vision went past Yiqing Qian, looking towards somewhere in the crowd. However, he discovered that the delicate figure that he had been longing for had disappeared without a trace. He intentionally said that he was here to fetch Yiqing Luo, intentionally said it to Yiqing Luo. They weren't too far apart, so no matter how noisy the surroundings were, Yiqing Luo would definitely have heard what he said. But not only did Yiqing Luo not take the initiative to look for him, she was nowhere to be seen. The minute he thought that because of her, the surrounding people had suspected the relationship between him and Yiqing Qian, Ling Fenghua's heart was filled with rage. After Yiqing Luo walked out of the courtyard, she saw Yi Fengyu, who had been standing obediently at the entrance, waiting for her. After nearly 20 days, Yi Fengyu had grown a lot taller, and his body had also become a lot sturdier. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved, "Little you." She quickly walked forward and grabbed Yi Fengyu's wrist. His wrist was no longer as thin and weak as before. It already had the feel of solid muscle. It had only been 20 days, yet Yi Fengyu had changed so much. It seemed like old man Yu did not forget to train Yi Fengyu when he was the teacher of the devil class. Sister. When Yi Fengyu saw Yiqing Luo, a smile appeared on his delicate face. He was just about to stretch out his hand to take his sister's luggage, but discovered that Yiqing Luo's hands were empty. Yiqing Luo rubbed his head. The dormitory has been destroyed, the things inside can't be kept, and there's nothing valuable inside. Chapter 425. Put your mind on training, don't keep paying attention to my sister. Yiqing Luo's hand, which was rubbing his head, suddenly increased in strength as she gave him a hard slap. Yi Fengyu hugged his head in pain. I'm just worried about you. Is your sister's hand someone to worry about? The siblings chatted on, totally not paying attention to the situation over at Ling Fenghua's side, so naturally they didn't hear the words that he deliberately raised his volume to tell her. Just as she was preparing to return to Three Springs sect, a few students suddenly appeared in front. Student Yi, Crown Prince is here to pick you up personally. What are you still doing here? His Highness the Crown Prince treats you so well. Earlier your eldest sister thought that Crown Prince was here specially to pick her up, so she pretended to be shy. Who knew? Crown Prince said he was here to pick you up. Student Yi, hurry over, don't let Crown Prince wait for too long. I can't wait to see Yiqing Qian's sullen face. She really thinks of herself as a goddess. Looking down on other students, but still being outdone by her own sister. Still trying to snatch her own sister's fiancé, only her face is big enough to do such a thing. These female students had obviously been bullied by Yiqing Qian daily. This was a rare chance for Yiqing Qian to lose her face in public, so they naturally wouldn't let it go. Hence, one by one, they started to search for Yiqing Luo. Once they found her, they crowded around her and pushed her into the crowd. Yiqing Luo was still in a daze when she heard a joyful voice, Qing Luo. She saw Ling Fenghua walking over with an earnest face. His face was filled with his usual refined and warm smile. He walked to Yiqing Luo's side and stretched out his hand to grab her wrist. His eyes were filled with worry. I heard that you were attacked. Are you injured? After I heard this news, I have been so worried that I couldn't eat or sleep. His voice was gentle and filled with affection. Like a young lad who had his first awakening of love, with a trace of bashfulness and a trace of cautiousness. I know today is the school's holiday, so I immediately came to pick you up. Now that I see that you are fine, I can rest assured. If it wasn't for the fact that she knew Ling Fenghua's true colors, Yiqing Luo would have been deceived by his superb acting skills. Whereas for Yiqing Jian, who was standing by the side, her entire face was sunken as she stood stiffly by the side with an awkward and embarrassed expression. She pretended to be sentimental as she went up to Ling Fenghua, intentionally flaunted her love, but when Ling Fenghua questioned Yiqing Luo, and even said that he was here to fetch Yiqing Luo, she was given a tight slap on her face. But now, Ling Fenghua had ignored her, and treated Yiqing Luo with eagerness and gentleness. That was like sprinkling a handful of salt on her wound. Ling Fenghua's eyes were obviously drooling over Yiqing Luo. Furthermore, after Yiqing Luo had stirred things up, Ling Fenghua had never mentioned the topic of marrying her again. Yiqing Qian was trembling with rage. She had given everything to Ling Fenghua. She had given her entire life to Ling Fenghua, but in the end, this was the result. She would never accept this. In his heart, an inexplicable flame of jealousy burned incessantly. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly, as she faintly glanced past Yiqing Jian, who was shooting a hateful gaze at her, as her lips curled into an arc of ridicule. I've troubled your highness. Chapter 426. Banquet. Ling Fenghua had never set up any banquet for her. Yiqing Qian's body trembled even more violently. The hands hidden in her sleeves clenched tightly into fists. She had to suppress the rage in her heart and maintain her image in front of everyone. Yiqing Qian was angry, but Yiqing Luo smiled charmingly, that pair of long and narrow eyes that could charm all living beings, her eyebrows curved, seducing one's soul. For a moment, Ling Fenghua almost went into a daze. He secretly cursed himself for being blind in the past, to give up such a stunning beauty and insist on a secret meeting with Yiqing Qian. Today, he had almost ruined his reputation. In order to wash away the rumors between him and Yiqing Qian, he wanted to release all his love for Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo, it must be tiring to stand and talk, let me help you into the car. Ling Fenghua held Yiqing Luo's arm, looking like a 24 filial fiancé. You. Let go of my sister. Yi Fengyu's face was ashen. He threw the luggage on the ground and rushed forward, pulling Yiqing Luo behind him. Towards Ling Fenghua, he had no good impression at all. Outsiders might not know, but as a member of the Yi family, he was very clear about it. Ling Fenghua and Yiqing Luo were obviously engaged, but he still wanted to mix around with Yiqing Qian. If it was other women, it was normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, especially as the crown prince. There was no lack of women around him. But that woman was Yiqing Qian. Without the woman's soft arm in his hand, and that unique fragrance, Ling Fenghua inexplicably felt an emptiness in his heart. He subconsciously stretched out his hand, trying to grab Yiqing Luo's hand. However, Yi Fengyu's back was as straight as a ramrod, not giving him any chance to touch his sister. That protective look made Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh out loud. It seemed that the training in the academy not only had his body changed, even his character had changed. If it was in the past, Yi Fengyu would never dare to use such an attitude to face Ling Fenghua. Xiao Yu, you go back first. Yiqing Luo put her hand on Yi Fengyu's shoulder and gently moved his body in front of her. Since the crown prince has invited me, how can I not go? Sister, Yiqing Luo raised her head and squinted at Yi Fengyu. Yi Fengyu stopped speaking, pursed his lips, and moved away unwillingly. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile as she gently patted his shoulder. At the same time, Yiqing Luo suppressed her voice to a volume that only the both of them could hear. Find some time in the afternoon to go to the Western Mansion and look for a Mr. called Xiao Jin. Say he's my younger brother and just listen to his arrangements. With that, she had already walked towards Ling Fenghua's direction. When Ling Fenghua heard that Yiqing Luo had actually agreed to the matter of the banquet, his face revealed an ecstatic expression as he immediately stretched out his hand to support Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo acted as though she didn't see him as she flipped over and leapt onto that carriage. Ling Fenghua was startled, but he was not angry. He got on the carriage with a smile. Yiqing Qian gritted her teeth as she clenched her fists tightly, as a vicious look surfaced on her face. That pair of eyes under the long hair stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo as though it was laced with poison. Eldest young Miss Yi seems to be very dissatisfied with this highness. Ling Fenghua narrowed his eyes. How could he not feel Yiqing Qian's hatred? In order to make the surrounding people believe that there was no relationship between him and Yiqing Qian. At this moment, the expression on Ling Fenghua's face was as cold as ice. His eyes revealed a sliver of indistinct warning. Chapter 427. Only then did Ling Fenghua's expression become slightly better. He gave a cold harumph and flicked his sleeves. I'll have to trouble eldest Miss Yi to send 8th young Master Yi back to his residence, and also to inform Patriarch Yi and old ancestor that Qing Luo has been brought to the Crown Prince Palace by me. Just a second ago, it was still gentle and sweet. She thought that she would become the object of envy in the eyes of all the students today. But in the next second, reality completely crushed her. She was ordered around by Ling Fenghua in front of everyone. At this moment, although she was filled with anger, she still smiled delicately and said, "Yes, Qian understands." Ling Fenghua withdrew his gaze and entered the carriage. The group of people left in a mighty manner. The scene was extremely grand. Yiqing Qian's mouth was filled with dust from the clatter of the horse's hooves. She tried her best to restrain her emotions. The long hair on the side of her cheek scattered, concealing her venomous resentment and gloom. The surrounding students and parents were filled with envy towards Yiqing Luo and praising Ling Fenghua. All of them were certain that Ling Fenghua's action was to let Yiqing Luo officially marry into the family. Classmate Yi is so lucky to have such a good fiancé. If it were me, I would definitely faint from happiness. That's right, that's right. His Highness the Crown Prince is so busy every day, but he's still so concerned about Student Yi. He especially found out about the holiday and personally came to pick Student Yi up. It's so heartwarming. Of course, although Student Yi is placed in the devil class, but her strength is obvious to all. She was beautiful and powerful, so of course the Crown Prince would like her. Unlike some people who shamelessly seduce their future brother-in-law and even think of ways to smear their own sister's name. That's right. If I were the Crown Prince, I would also choose Student Yi. The surrounding discussions were in full swing, and although they had intentionally suppressed their voices, but Yi Qingqian could still hear it clearly. She was so angry that her body trembled. Originally, the one who should be envied was her. This glory belonged to her. It was all Yi Qingluo's fault. It was Yi Qingluo, that slut. He took away everything that belonged to her. Just by taking the title of the first wife's daughter, she could become the young lord of the Three Springs sect and be engaged to Ling Fenghua. Why? These were supposed to be hers. A sharp glint flashed past Yi Qingqian's eyes as she speedily chased after the carriage without giving him a glance. Yi Fengyu thought that she was embarrassed and wanted to leave first. He didn't think too much about it and picked up his luggage to go home. Crown Prince Palace. The resplendent and magnificent palace was imposing and magnificent. At this moment, the huge garden was filled with countless exquisite delicacies. Ling Fenghua had indeed chosen a good place. Sitting here for a meal, if the other party was someone else, Yi Qingluo would definitely be able to have a full meal. Ling Fenghua had been staring at Yi Qingluo's face all this while. Seeing that she was surveying the surroundings without any signs of disgust, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He and Yi Qingluo were sitting face to face, separated by a long table in the middle. Royal Father had always said that the flowers in this Highness's garden are extremely splendid and colorful. But when Qingluo sits here, she is more beautiful than the flowers, and the surrounding flowers lose their color. Ling Fenghua was holding a wine glass, his black eyes were infatuated, and he didn't even try to hide his love for her. When Yi Qingluo heard that, she scoffed lightly as her long and narrow eyes rippled with a trace of cold smile. Oh? Your Highness is questioning the monarch's foresight. No, it's not that. Ling Fenghua choked as his expression turned embarrassed. His main point was obviously to praise Yi Qingluo for being more beautiful than the flowers. Why did Yi Qingluo place the main point on the first half of the sentence? Chapter 428. Ling Fenghua smiled calmly, and revealed a trace of flattery. Qingluo is exceptionally intelligent. This Highness knows that my thoughts can't be hidden from you. Yi Qingluo rolled her eyes and scoffed. Don't say it as if she knew him very well. She didn't have the leisure to guess Ling Fenghua's thoughts. It was just that Ling Fenghua's performance was too obvious. Ling Fenghua raised his wine glass towards Yi Qingluo. Since Qingluo has already come straight to the point, then I shall not beat around the bush. He downed the wine in his cup in one gulp. His actions were noble and elegant like a prince of a country. Only, after he placed it on the wine cup, his gaze towards Yi Qingluo became earnest again. That day in the Magic Beast Forest, Qingluo seemed to be able to tame mirage beasts and even ride on the mirage beast's back. Is there any special method? As expected, long ago when Ling Fenghua raised the invitation, Yi Qingluo had already guessed his motive. She had more or less heard about the recent turmoil in the royal family. Although Ling Fenghua had always been the crown prince since he was born, his foundation was really not solid. In the royal family, as long as there was evidence to prove that he wasn't the best candidate, then he would be deposed. Ling Fenghua was originally outstanding because of his cultivation talent. But now, no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to touch the barrier to break through. Especially recently, because of Yi Qingluo's matter, it caused his reputation to not be good. Ling Fenghua was naturally very anxious. The only way was to break through to the Earth Profound realm as soon as possible and become the first prince to step into the Earth Profound realm. His position as the crown prince would be secure. The last time Ling Fenghua appeared in the magic beast forest, it was to find the magic crystal gems. He wanted to break through. In the end, Yi Qing Luo appeared and messed up all the plans. If Ling Fenghua wanted to advance, he would definitely come to find her. Qing Luo, if you are able to teach this highness the ability to tame mirage beasts, this highness promises you that the future empress of the West Continent will definitely be you. Ling Fenghua saw that she didn't reply for a long time, and his heart became anxious, and he immediately opened up a new condition. If he could secure the position of Crown Prince, Yi Qing Luo would also be able to secure the position of Crown Prince's imperial concubine. In future, when he succeeded the throne, he would immediately confer Yi Qing Luo as his empress. He was only below one person and above tens of thousands. He believed that no woman in the world could escape from such a promise. However, after Ling Fenghua said these words, Yi Qing Luo still held on to a smile which didn't look like a smile, and didn't make a sound. The more she did not speak, the more Ling Fenghua's heart was beating like a drum. Now that he had a request for Yi Qing Luo's help, he didn't dare to display his crown prince's attitude. Ling Fenghua was very clear that Yi Qing Luo was not an obedient lady. If the hard way didn't work, then he would use the soft way. Adding on to the sufficient benefits, an intelligent lady like Yi Qing Luo would definitely make the best choice. Ling Fenghua poured another cup of wine. Qing Luo, consider it carefully, this highness really likes you. In the future you will also be this highness' wife. If you help this highness now, you are also helping yourself. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly as an enchanting ray of light flashed past. She put her index finger on her lips and covered her mouth as she chuckled. If eldest sister heard what your highness said to me, how sad would she be? I have nothing to do with eldest Miss Yi. Ling Fenghua immediately shook his head, as he spoke righteously. Since this highness is your fiancée, then eldest Miss Yi is also this highness' future sister. No matter how lustful this highness is, I will absolutely not do such a rude thing. Chapter 429. This tone was filled with concern, mixed with traces of affection. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as she looked at him with a faint smile. Ling Fenghua's face was filled with righteousness, as though this kind of slander had caused him great harm. Yi Qing Luo laughed coldly in her heart and was about to open her mouth when her vision suddenly caught a slender figure. Yi Qing Qian followed along. Most likely, she had heard everything that Ling Fenghua had said just now. She wondered how Yi Qing Qian would feel when she heard the man whom she loved dearly slandered her because of another woman. Yi Qing Luo smiled but didn't say a word. Ling Fenghua persisted. Qing Luo, this highness is your fiancé, you should believe in this highness. Saying that, he observed Yi Qing Luo's expression and boldly stretched out his hand, trying to hold Yi Qing Luo's hand. Just as his hand stretched out, Yi Qing Luo's body leaned backwards and the hand which was placed on the table slid onto her lap. One hand brushed the long hair by the side of her face, curling it on her fingertips as she gave a charming smile. If I said that I don't have any special method to subdue mirage beasts, will your highness still say these words? This highness's heart has always only had you. Ling Fenghua's eyes were filled with sincerity. If you don't believe me, after this highness breaks through to Earth Profound stage, this highness will immediately propose marriage to Three Springs sect, to marry you. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Her fiery red lips curled into a teasing smile. That radiant and beautiful face, those long and narrow eyes were curved, displaying an enchanting charm. This smile had mesmerized Ling Fenghua's eyes, captivated his heart. This made Ling Fenghua full of confidence as he raised his wine cup, raising it towards Yi Qing Luo. This highness will definitely let you see this highness's sincerity towards you. Yiqing Luo's jade fingers held the wine cup in front of her as she shook it gently. "Marry me." The lady's enchanting voice was like pearls falling onto a jade plate, crisp and clear. Ling Fenghua's eyes lit up. Indeed, facing power and status, no lady could escape from this temptation. He immediately nodded and smiled warmly. "Yes, I will marry you and make you my only crown princess. You will be the future emperor-empress." Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she gave a charming smile. But she just smiled and didn't say anything. She didn't respond to him. Ling Fenghua didn't rush her, as he eagerly helped Yiqing Luo to arrange the dishes, and raised his wine cup, to toast Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were suffused with a trace of destructive radiance. Her jade fingers that were hooked around the wine cup gently caressed the wine cup, immediately pasted it on her pink lips and drank the wine into her mouth. Ling Fenghua's eyes suddenly lit up. Although he concealed his expression very well, the uncontrollable smile on his face revealed his current mood. Yiqing Luo pretended not to see his strange emotions and put down the wine cup, just for a way to tame mirage beasts. "Your Highness has sacrificed yourself." Her voice was filled with mockery. The corner of his mouth curled up into a smile full of ridicule. "But Your Highness, have you forgotten that I had already divorced Your Highness when you and Big Sister were secretly having an affair and trying to break off the engagement?" The smile on Ling Fenghua's face froze. Yiqing Luo slowly stood up. Her devastatingly beautiful face held a dazzling smile. "Your Highness, are you trying to enjoy the bliss of having two wives? But Your Highness should think carefully on how to explain to Big Sister." Saying that, her vision swept directly towards a corner, as her lips twitched with a smile which didn't look like a smile. "What do you mean?" Ling Fenghua's expression tightened as he followed Yiqing Luo's gaze. Chapter 430. "Qing Luo, you can't leave." Ling Fenghua immediately stood up and wanted to chase after her. But before he could straighten his body and raise his hand, his entire body went limp as though he had no energy at all. A surge of raging fire was burning within his body. He fell onto the long table and half of his body had already covered the exquisite delicacies on the long table. His body was stained with quite a bit of soup, but he didn't even have the energy to move. His entire body was burning with that burning feeling. You must be wondering what on earth is going on. Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks as she looked down at Ling Fenghua, who was sprawled on the table. Her smile was still as bright as a flower. The coldness amidst the laughter was like frost. Ling Fenghua's face was filled with astonishment as his trembling finger pointed at Yiqing Luo. You didn't. Curious why I had obviously drunk this cup of wine, but the one who was drugged is you." Yiqing Luo directly repeated Ling Fenghua's question. Ling Fenghua blinked his eyes. His entire face was flushed red from the aphrodisiac and his entire body was boiling hot as sweat dripped down. Yiqing Luo laughed coldly in her heart. Did he really treat her as an idiot? A lone man and woman, set up in the garden, and there wasn't a single attendant or maid to serve them. How could she not see through Ling Fenghua's motive? What's done cannot be undone. That would depend on whether he had the ability to cook the rice or not. Yiqing Luo laughed coldly as her fingertips hooked onto that wine cup on the table and shook out a handful of medicinal powder. Following that, she picked up the wine cup which Ling Fenghua had drunk several times earlier and flicked her fingers around the rim of the cup. Around the rim of the cup, a circle of jet black immediately appeared. Ling Fenghua's face flushed red as his eyes widened in disbelief. Yiqing Luo had obviously not touched his wine cup and he had been staring at her. How did she do it? This lady emphasizes on reciprocity and I will return you double the amount. Don't worry, your antidote will be here soon. Yiqing Luo gave a low laugh as she bent down slightly as though she was looking at an ant that was about to die. Perhaps it was because his entire body was drugged. Ling Fenghua could clearly sense that the lady's fragrance had entered his nose. The burning sensation in his body felt like it was about to explode. Not knowing where the energy came from, he suddenly stood up and pounced towards Yiqing Luo's direction. This pounce caused his abdomen to receive a vicious kick from Yiqing Luo. Ling Fenghua was caught off guard by this kick, and he was sent flying. Coincidentally, he bumped into the rockery in the corner. Ling Fenghua landed heavily on the ground. He felt a sharp pain in his chest and coughed out blood. However, this pain did not quell the raging fire in his body. A woman in green and white walked out from behind the rockery. She stared coldly at the direction where Yiqing Luo left. Her facial features were sinister and terrifying. What trick was Yiqing Luo playing? He actually gave Ling Fenghua to her just like that. Yiqing Qian's brows creased tightly, unable to understand Yiqing Luo's actions. She lowered her head and stared at Ling Fenghua, who was lying by her feet, his face flushed red as his hands kept on tearing off his clothes. Thinking of how he had fawned over Yiqing Luo earlier, a glint of hatred surfaced in her eyes. He should have known about Ling Fenghua's fickleness. However, in this scene, her heart was moved by Ling Fenghua. She had obviously gotten close to Ling Fenghua in order to walk up to a higher position, not wanting to live under someone else. But this heart had uncontrollably fallen in love with Ling Fenghua. Looking at Ling Fenghua's wriggling body, his face filled with pain, she couldn't bear it. She slowly squatted down and took out a handkerchief from her bosom, helping Ling Fenghua to wipe his sweat. "Bear with it for a while, I'll get someone to carry you to the bedroom." Only when her hand had just touched Ling Fenghua, her wrist instantly tightened and she had been forcefully pressed onto the ground by Ling Fenghua. Chapter 431. Just as she walked out of the Crown Prince Palace, Yiqing Luo saw Yi Fengyu, who was twitching uneasily not too far away. Her heart warmed, and a warm smile appeared on her face as she walked towards him. "Sister." The moment Yi Fengyu saw Yiqing Luo, his eyes lit up and immediately trotted forward to grab her hand. "Are you all right? Are you okay?" His eyes were filled with worry as he anxiously pulled Yiqing Luo to check if she was injured. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with smiles. "You don't trust me that much." Listening to her relaxed tone, Yi Fengyu's heart that was hanging in his throat finally calmed down. His Highness the Crown Prince was definitely up to no good by asking his sister for a gathering. Although Big Sister is powerful, there are so many experts in the Crown Prince Palace. Big Sister will be at a disadvantage if she is alone. No matter how he thought about it, Yi Fengyu was still worried, so he simply followed them. If Yiqing Luo was a little later, he would definitely barge into the Crown Prince Palace. "Xiao Yu, I have a mission for you." A crafty smile surfaced on Yiqing Luo's charming eyes as she leaned close to Yi Fengyu's ear. "Go to Second Prince's residence and tell him to bring along some pedantic old ministers who have a say in the palace to the Crown Prince's garden. I've prepared a big gift for him." When Yiqing Luo returned to Three Springs Sect, Second Madam and a bunch of maids were standing at the entrance. Seeing Yiqing Luo, Second Madam's well-manicured brows knitted tightly. "Where's Qian, Today was the Academy's holiday, and in order to reflect the independence of the Three Springs Sect's children, Old Madam had forbidden her to fetch Yiqing Qian from the Academy. Second Madam had prepared pastries early in the morning and led a group of maids to wait for Yiqing Qian at the door. They had already waited for 4 hours and there was no sign of Yiqing Qian. He had not expected Yiqing Luo, this slut, to come back first. "You're looking for eldest sister." Yiqing Luo raised her brows as her lips curled into a strange smile. "Eldest sister has been picked up by the Crown Prince." On hearing that it was Ling Fenghua who had fetched Yiqing Qian, Second Madam's worried heart was finally relieved. But when he saw the smile on Yiqing Luo's face, he suddenly felt a little strange. But he couldn't tell what was strange about it. The one who brought Yiqing Qian away was Ling Fenghua. Perhaps this little slut saw that her own fiancé had brought away another lady and was suppressing her anger. With this thought, the second madam did not think too much about it. She called for a group of maids and returned to the mansion, swaying her hips. Yiqing Luo sneered as her eyes were filled with ridicule. Now, he should be happy. Later, there would be plenty of places to cry. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes and entered the Three Springs sect. She didn't follow the rules and report to old Grand Madam first, but went straight back to her own courtyard. Not long after, Yi Fengyu returned. The things which Yiqing Luo had instructed, he had already completed them. When I first said this, the second prince didn't believe me. But when I said Big Sister's name, he immediately believed me. Yi Fengyu frowned in confusion. Could it be that Big Sister knows the second prince? I don't know him. Yiqing Luo raised her arm and rubbed Yi Fengyu's head. He trusts me, which proves that he is a smart man. Compared to Ling Fenghua, he is more suitable to be the crown prince. Hearing this, Yi Fengyu's expression immediately changed. Be the crown prince? Could it be that Big Sister wants to let the second prince replace the crown prince? He totally didn't expect that he was just running an errand to pass a message, and it could affect the change of the crown prince's position. Don't worry about other things, just watch the show. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, reflecting a meaningful cold arc. Chapter 432. The news of the siblings' return to the mansion reached the elder ancestor's ears immediately. However, the two siblings stayed in the courtyard and had no intention of coming to see her. Second Madam Yuqi whispered in her ear. Yiqing Luo totally didn't put old madam in her heart and even instigated the usually obedient Yi Fengyu to not put old madam in his eyes. Old Grand Madam was most concerned about the younger generation's respect towards her, so she immediately called for the old maid to bring Yiqing Luo and her brother over. Yiqing Luo led Yi Fengyu to the main hall and saw old Grand Madam sitting on the soft chair, knocking on the wooden fish. Madam Yuqi stood respectfully at the side, looking submissive. It seemed that Madam Yuqi's authority as the mistress of the household had not returned to her. Old 7 and Old 8 are back. Old Ancestor squinted his eyes like a soft snake, giving off a cold glow. Yi Fengyu reflexively straightened his back and bowed slightly towards the elder ancestor. Yes, elder ancestor. You has returned. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she stood by the side, not saying a single word. Number 7, I heard that your eldest sister had been taken away by the crown prince. Old Grand Madam didn't probe deeply into Yiqing Luo's attitude, but instead found a topic to talk about. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows. I thought I had already made it very clear to second aunt. Madam Yuqi's face paled slightly as she hid behind elder ancestor. She's just a young lady. She's not even married yet and she's already so close to His Highness the Crown Prince. If other people hear about this, they'll only laugh at Three Springs sect for not knowing how to educate young ladies. Grand Elder's face darkened slightly as he turned to glare at Madam Yuqi. Madam Yuqi's body trembled and she lowered her head, looking like she was humbly being scolded. Yiqing Luo sneered in her heart when she heard that. This old ancestor was indeed a smart person. He's pretty good at playing dumb. Knowing that currently, Ling Fenghua was Yiqing Luo's fiancé on the surface. However, the old ancestor did not mention a single word about it. Come to think of it, old Grand Madam was still hoping that Yiqing Qian would be able to tie Ling Fenghua up so that she could secure the position of Crown Prince's imperial concubine. Look how kind and filial she is. Knowing the old ancestor's plan, he purposely added fuel to the fire. It wouldn't be long before Yiqing Qian would be able to marry Ling Fenghua as she wished, fulfilling the Yi family's long-cherished dream. Old 7th, you too, why didn't you persuade your eldest sister a little more? Old Grand Madam brought the topic back to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched with a smile that didn't look like a smile. When eldest sister and crown prince are deeply in love, how can I stop them if I go and persuade them? The old ancestor was embarrassed and his face turned red as he choked. She had totally not expected Yiqing Luo to put it so bluntly in front of her. But on seeing Yiqing Luo's calm expression towards the matter of Ling Fenghua and Yiqing Qian being together, her heart faintly heaved a sigh of relief. She had been feeling uneasy ever since her seventh brother left under the protection of His Majesty, the Overlord. She had lived for most of her life. How could she not understand that Di Zun was trying to build support for her seventh brother? He had used his actions to show that he, the Overlord, would stand by old Seventh's side and be his backer. Who was Di Zun? He was a legendary figure that was famous throughout the entire Nirvana realm. He had the #1 powerhouse, the Imperial Palace as his backing, and he himself was so powerful that there was no opponent in the world who dared to go against him. Today, Di Zun wanted to protect Yiqing Luo. When old Grand Madam faced Yiqing Luo, she naturally could not throw her face away like in the past. Chapter 433. A lady who had been touched by the Crown Prince, no matter where she went, no one dared to accept her. Moreover, based on Yiqing Luo's character, if she became the Crown Prince's concubine, she would absolutely not allow Yiqing Qian to become Ling Fenghua's concubine, to put on a show of two sisters serving one husband. Old Madam was extremely curious, what was the relationship between Yiqing Luo and the Overlord? From the looks of it, it really didn't seem like a simple master-disciple relationship. If she was able to get close to the Overlord, then Three Springs sect would completely have the hope of turning the tables. Yiqing Luo merely shot a glance at old Madam and had already guessed most of what she was thinking in her heart. She sneered as she tugged Yi Fengyu's arm and walked towards the armchair. Without waiting for old Madam to say anything, she sat down directly. Such a disrespectful attitude made old Madam's face sunk as her brows creased and her expression was filled with disgust. This disgust disappeared in a flash. Following that, old Madam's voice turned gentle as she gave an amiable smile. It's been hard on you during this period of time in the academy. In the past, when eldest and second brother came back from the academy, they would need to nourish their bodies for several days. In a while, Grandma will get the maids to bring some nourishing soup for you and your brother. No need. Yiqing Luo rejected without any hesitation. It's rare for us to have a holiday. I've already promised a few students that for the 3 days of holiday, I will bring Xiao Yu and the rest to have fun outside. Old Madam's amiable expression could no longer be maintained. That pair of slender eyes revealed a thick gloominess. This lass seemed to have grown some ability. Did she think that just because she had the Overlord, she could be lawless? He didn't even put him in his eyes. Madame Yuchi saw that the atmosphere had turned gloomy and old Madam's expression turned uglier. She was both happy and apprehensive. What made them happy was that old Grand Madam didn't treat Yiqing Luo as a treasure just because she had a much stronger ability than Yiqing Qian, nor because she had the backing of the Overlord. But she was apprehensive and worried that old Grand Madam would vent the anger which he was unable to vent on Yiqing Luo on her. She deliberated over her words for a long time before saying, Miss Qi is still young and a child loves to play. It's rare for her to have a holiday. Since Miss Qi has an appointment with her classmates, let her go. The old ancestor's deep gaze moved towards Madame Yuchi. Madame Yuchi shuddered at the sight of those sinister, snake-like eyes. Fortunately, although the old ancestor's gaze was cold, he didn't say anything else. He was extremely satisfied with Madame Yuchi's words that broke the deadlock. Old Madame nodded her head slightly as her gaze stared straight at Yiqing Luo. What Madame Yuchi said is right. This 3 days holiday, Grandma will allow you to meet up with your classmates, but the next holiday, you'll have to leave some time for Grandma. If there's a next time, I'll try my best. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up as she scoffed disapprovingly. The frivolous and perfunctory attitude made the wrinkled muscles on the old ancestor's face tremble. She forcefully suppressed the anger in her heart. More and more, she felt that this granddaughter of hers was simply uncontrollable. Madame Yuchi continued to smooth things over as she changed the topic, speaking of classmates. Miss Chi, 8th young master, you haven't told old madam which class you've entered. She paused for a moment as she gave a fawning smile. But her tone was filled with resentment. Miss Chi's performance in the ability assessment was so outstanding, so you must have been allocated to the high profound class, right? Devil class. Low profound class, second class. The two of them replied at the same time. Chapter 434. Low profound class. Madame Yuchi's eyes widened in disbelief, filled with astonishment. 8th young master, based on your aptitude, even if you can't enter the high profound class, you should at least be able to enter the intermediate profound class. Why are you in the low profound class? Because the previous two were Yiqing Qian and Yifeng Ru who had directly entered the high profound class. In their minds, the low profound class was the lowest class. I feel that the low profound class is very good. Yifeng Yu was roared at and stared at by old Madame's eerie gaze. He felt a chill down his spine as he lowered his head and muttered, I can learn more in the low profound class. I'm the one who asked him to go to the low profound class. Yiqing Luo interrupted Yifeng Yu's words in a calm voice. Previously the academy that little Yu attended had completely wasted him. He needs to consolidate his own foundation and the low profound class is the best place to train his foundation. The reason why she explained was purely because she didn't want to see Madame Yuchi's smirk under the shock and agitate Yifeng Yu. For a child of Yifeng Yu's age, his soul was the most fragile and he liked to indulge in flights of fancy. If he really thought that the low profound class was the most useless class under Madame Yuchi's hint, it would possibly strike Yifeng Yu's intention to consolidate his foundation. However, this explanation, in the ears of old Madame and Madame Yuchi, was an extremely far-fetched excuse. Heavenly Academy's class allocation, how could she just say which class she wanted to go to? Wait, this devil class. What's going on? Old Madame squinted her eyes as she looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. She had heard of Yiqing Luo's performance during the assessment. She broke the record set by a genius cultivator a few hundred years ago, which was 24 hours. Yiqing Luo had set a new record, which was 1 hour. 24 hours and 1 hour. This contrast was so obvious. After that, during the ability assessment, she shone brilliantly. This kind of result, how could she be allocated to the devil class, the class that was synonymous with waste? You still want to go out and play with those waste in the devil class? Old Madame's face was ashen as the wooden fish in her hand broke with a bang. Old Madame hated waste the most in her entire life. Although she hated Yiqing Luo, but Yiqing Luo still represented the Three Springs sect. He actually entered the devil class. If this was spread out, how would others mock the devil class? The more the old ancestor thought about it, the more he could not conceal the anger on his face. No wonder Yiqing Luo didn't think of making progress and still wanted to go on holiday. He had been led astray by those trash. Tomorrow, I will go to the elder quarters to have a good chat. Devil class. You must not stay here any longer. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as her lips curled into a smile which didn't look like a smile. Whether the devil class is trash or not, whether I stay in the devil class or not, it has nothing to do with old ancestor. You. Most importantly. Ancestor, the times are different now. Your words are no longer the same as they were back then. If the Heavenly Academy can be easily persuaded, then it's not worthy of being called the best academy. Old Grand Madame's expression was a mix of green and red. Although what Yiqing Luo said was indeed the truth, but for a junior to say this in front of her old face couldn't take it. Seventh young mistress, what are you saying? Madame Yuchi saw that old madam was angry and immediately went forward as she gently caressed old madam's chest and passed her some tea as she turned her head to look at Yiqing Luo. Old madam is concerned about you and thinking of your future. If you're not willing, then so be it. Why must you use words to stab old madam? Old madam drank a mouthful of tea as she calmed her anger down. A pair of malicious eyes stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she calculated the time. The real show was about to start. She stood up as she gave an extremely elegant smile. If you have the time to care about me, why don't you care more about that eldest young Miss Yi who brings glory to the clan? Chapter 435. What rubbish are you sprouting? Old madam is fine here, how is it not good? Madame Yuchi's brows creased as her heartbeat sped up. Not knowing why, there was an ominous premonition spreading in her heart. She took a look at old madam and strode forward as she lifted that follower and gave him 2 tight slaps. That follower cried out in pain as he held his cheek. It's not that old madam is not good, it's eldest young miss. What did you say? On hearing that it was Yiqing Qian, Madame Yuchi's expression suddenly congealed as she tugged the follower's collar. What did you say? What happened to Qian? The follower was so frightened that he trembled. Eldest young miss. Eldest young miss was carried back by the royal family's men. Crown Prince was carried by the side and Eunuch Chang received the imperial edict. Madame Yuchi's face turned pale as she staggered backwards. Her mind was filled with the words of her daughter being carried back. Old madam was still considered calm, but the expression on her face was filled with viciousness. A pair of icy cold eagle eyes looked at Yiqing Luo, as though she was suspecting if this matter was caused by her. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she looked at her calmly with a, I don't know what's the situation, expression. Old madam stood up in doubt as she stared at Madame Yuchi, who seemed as though she had lost her soul. Useless fellow. Quickly help me out to receive the imperial edict. Madame Yuchi seemed as though she had just awoken from a dream as she hurriedly supported old madam as the 2 of them hurriedly walked out of the main hall to receive the imperial edict. Sister. Surely it can't be. Yi Fengyu had participated in this matter previously, and when he heard Yiqing Qian being carried back, his expression changed slightly. You can just pretend that you don't know anything. Yiqing Luo raised her finger as she placed it on her brother's mouth. Your sister is helping the Yi family to realize a beautiful dream. Indeed, it was realizing a dream. But this dream wasn't beautiful at all. As what Yiqing Luo had expected, it was exactly the same. In the Crown Prince Palace, the aphrodisiac which Leng Fenghua wanted to use on Yiqing Luo was multiplied by several times, and made Leng Fenghua drink it himself. The moment he touched a woman, he was like a ferocious beast. How could he stop? Yiqing Luo's kick had specially sent Leng Fenghua to where Yiqing Qian was hiding. Everything that happened after that happened naturally. In the first place, there was no brotherly love between the royal family because of the power struggle. The second prince had long wanted to find a chance to get rid of Leng Fenghua and replace him. Now that he heard that Yiqing Luo had prepared a huge gift for him, he found the best excuse right now. Crown Prince as the Crown Prince, he should set an example and not provoke Yiqing Qian while maintaining the engagement with Yiqing Luo. These pedantic old ministers had long been displeased with Leng Fenghua and Yiqing Qian's matter. Now that the second prince had taken the lead, he was naturally happy to go. In his heart, he felt that the second prince was a reasonable person who valued brotherhood. Thus, with the second prince leading the 3 old ministers, they majestically made their way to the Crown Prince Palace. After seeing the group of people coming, the 2 gatekeepers fell to the ground on the spot. Seeing this situation, the few old ministers realized that something was amiss and immediately broke the door open. In the entire Crown Prince Palace, not a single sound was heard and not a single attendant or maid was seen. Second Prince had long received Yi Feng Yu's instructions and intentionally led the three old ministers to the garden. After that, the entire garden was set up with a long table. The delicacies on the table were scattered all over the ground. Whereas in everyone's ears, they could obviously hear that man's rough growl and panting which made one blush. Chapter 436. When she heard the voice, the lady who was lying on the ground, covered in bruises, stretched out her hands and kept shouting, "Help! Help!" That voice was hoarse. Apparently she had been shouting for a long time and her throat was sore. This scene completely stunned the few of them. Especially the three old ministers. They were originally pedantic and their thinking was old-fashioned. Now that they saw Ling Fenghua doing that improper thing in the garden in broad daylight, they were so infuriated that they started to tremble. Second Prince heard the old official scolding him non-stop and finally understood what Yi Qing Luo was referring to when she mentioned about the huge gift. This big gift, he was very satisfied. Luckily when he invited the three old ministers, the excuse he used was precisely about Ling Fenghua and Yi Qing Qian's matter. Coincidentally, they bumped into each other. Second Prince smelled the blood in his nose and hid the profound meaning in his eyes, revealing a flustered expression as he went up to stop them. Ling Fenghua was like a beast at this time, totally ignoring the onlookers, as he fiercely bullied the lady below him. Second Prince, because of this, was beaten up a few times. After a long while, he finally managed to block Ling Fenghua. Both of them were already dripping with blood. Second Prince took off his clothes and covered Yi Qing Qian's body. Although the three old ministers were angry, but he was after all the crown prince, one by one, they stepped forward and took off their clothes to cover Ling Fenghua. In the process, the three old ministers were beaten up quite a bit. This matter, naturally, quickly reached the palace. The monarch was furious. If Ling Fenghua and Yi Qing Qian were acquainted privately, no one knew, the monarch would turn a blind eye, that was fine. But now, in broad daylight, dismissing the maidservant, in the garden. And for the few old ministers to see it clearly. Moreover, he had even beaten up these three old officials. When he heard that when Yi Qing Luo was carried for treatment, she had already fainted, and her lower body was covered with blood, the monarch almost fainted from anger. Even Three Springs sect, compared to the other three major sects, had declined quite a bit. But no matter what, it was still one of the four major sections. Otherwise they wouldn't have disregarded the fact that Yi Qing Luo was a wastrel and forcefully betrothed the Yi family's first wife's daughter to Ling Fenghua. Now, Ling Fenghua had turned the Yi clan's eldest young miss into such a state. If he didn't give the Yi clan an explanation, how could Yi Tianquang let it go? Under the monarch's rage, he issued an imperial edict and made eunuch Chang bring the unconscious Yi Qing Qian to the Yi family to retrieve the edict. Ling Fenghua's position as the crown prince was revoked, and he was conferred the title of King Ping. He moved to a fiefdom in the south of the West Continent. Yi Qing Qian had arranged for Ling Fenghua to be married to him, together with the dowry of the fief. As for the matter of Ling Fenghua betraying Yi Qing Luo and secretly having an affair with Yi Qing Qian, the monarch expressed his deep apologies and rewarded Yi Qing Luo with quite a lot of gold and silver jewelry. In order to appease the anger of the three old officials, as well as the anger of the people of the world, the monarch gave Yi Qing Luo a handwritten instruction. With this handwritten order, Yi Qing Luo would be able to move about unimpeded within the imperial city's sphere of influence. Furthermore, she could make any request that did not harm the interests of the royal family, and the royal family would do their best to fulfill it for her. When Yi Qing Luo held on to this handwritten order, eunuch Chang had already returned to report on the completion of the task. Yi Qingqian was carried to the main hall and there were 2 female doctors who were sent by the monarch to take care of her. They recounted Yi Qingqian's current condition. Madame Yuqi's tears flowed as she listened, looking at her pale-faced and unconscious daughter on the stretcher. She cried miserably, muttering that she wanted to tear Ling Fenghua into pieces. These words made old Madame's eyelids twitch. Chapter 437. Looking at this scene, Yi Qingluo's lips curled into a smirk of ridicule. In Madame Yuqi's eyes, this smile was a show of strength to her, a show of pride. Recalling what Yi Qingluo said the minute she came back, Yi Qingqian said Ling Fenghua had picked her up, recalling that treacherous smile, recalling what she said earlier about asking them to take good care of Yi Qingqian. Madame Yuqi instantly went crazy as she struggled and pounced towards Yi Qingluo. It's you. You framed my daughter. You were the one who wanted to destroy my daughter. It must be Yi Qingluo. It must be her. If it wasn't for Yi Qingluo, her daughter wouldn't have turned into this state. It wouldn't take long for the entire Three Springs city to know about it. Carrying it from the palace to the Three Springs manor, it wouldn't be long before the entire Three Springs city knew about it. The eldest daughter of the Yi family was having an affair with the crown prince in broad daylight. In the end, he stole to the point where he was riddled with scars. Ling Fenghua was stripped of his position as the crown prince. From now on, he would not be able to step into the main city. He wouldn't be able to achieve anything. In this life, he could only be a prince with a title but no real power. If Yi Qingqian married over, her entire life would be ruined. Making such a big scene, Ling Fenghua had lost all his face and the Yi family had also lost all their face. If Yi Qingqian married over, would she still be able to receive the favored treatment? Especially when I heard, Yi Qingqian was eventually saved by the second prince. This meant that the second prince had seen her body. In this way, Ling Fenghua would despise Yi Qingqian even more. Thinking of this, Madame Yuqi didn't know where the energy came from as she struggled free from the old maid and pounced onto Yi Qingluo, raising her hand to slap Yi Qingluo's face. You're such a vicious woman. You're a jinx. You've ruined both my daughters. What else do you want? What else do you want? I'll kill you. I'll definitely kill you. But before Madame Yuqi could even touch Yi Qingluo, she felt a sharp pain on her chest as her body flew backwards. Coincidentally, Yi Tianquang received the news and returned. As soon as she stepped into the main hall, she bumped into Madame Yuqi. The strength of Madame Yuqi's throw was extremely great. Yi Tianquang staggered back a few steps from the impact, and subconsciously threw the person in his arms away. Only then did he realize that it was Madame Yuqi, whose face was full of tears and was howling crazily. Madame Yuqi had long lost her rationality under the double stimulation. After being hugged by Yi Tianquang, she frantically greeted Yi Tianquang's face. Those sharp nails scratched Yi Tianquang's face, leaving several bloody marks. I'll kill you. Give me back my daughter. Give me back my daughter. Yi Tianquang impatiently grabbed Madame Yuqi's arm and ruthlessly flung her out. He heard the rumors outside and immediately rushed back, and also heard Madame Yuqi's howl towards Yi Qingluo earlier. When Yi Tianquang heard of this news, his first reaction was to wonder if this matter was Yi Qingluo's doing. As the head of a family, Yi Tianquang naturally wasn't stupid. After learning of this matter, the first thing he did was to ask the academy about it. But from what the surrounding students were saying, the one who boarded Ling Fenghua's carriage was obviously Yi Qingluo. Why was it that the one who got into trouble was Yi Qingjian? Not waiting for Yi Tianquang to ask, he saw Yi Qingluo standing up after she finished kicking him. On that devastatingly beautiful face, the expression was cold and detached, neither anxious nor impatient. To speak, you need evidence. You keep saying that everything is because of me, then show me the evidence. Chapter 438. Yi Tianquang's eyes were filled with anger, and his rough voice immediately resounded throughout the main hall. You want proof, don't you? Those people at the entrance of the academy are all witnesses. You became the crown prince. Yi Tianquang paused, remembering that Ling Fenghua's position as the crown prince had been removed. He changed his words, got into King Ping's carriage. After all, they were at the academy's entrance and there were so many people. In front of so many pairs of eyes, Yi Qingluo had no intention to hide the fact that she had boarded Ling Fenghua's carriage. Her expression didn't change, and the corner of her mouth twitched contemptuously. So what? I did board Ling Fenghua's car, but... Did I ask Yi Qingqian to go to the Crown Prince Palace? Yi Tianquang's words were dry and somewhat angry. That's also related to you. Lord Father, your words are quite interesting. Yi Qingluo's eyes narrowed slightly as she smiled lightly. Don't push all the blame onto me. If the relationship between the two of them was clean, then no matter how I schemed, I would not be able to frame them, isn't that so? Not waiting for Yi Tianquang to open his mouth, Yi Qingluo took the lead to rebuke. Father also said that I boarded Ling Fenghua's carriage and went to Crown Prince Palace, then why did Yi Qingqian appear there? Why did the two of them get entangled after I left? That's right, if Yi Qingluo wanted to frame Yi Qingqian, the prerequisite was that Yi Qingqian was in the Crown Prince Palace. After asking outside the Heavenly Academy, those who had seen Ling Fenghua personally escorting Yi Qingluo to the Crown Prince Palace, were all ridiculing Yi Qingqian for overestimating her own capabilities, attempting to snatch her sister's fiancé. From the start to the end, Yi Qingluo hadn't spoken a single word to Yi Qingqian, so there was no way that Yi Qingluo had deceived Yi Qingqian into the Crown Prince Palace. What's more, there were people who vividly described Yi Qingqian's twisted and malevolent expression when she stared at Ling Fenghua's carriage. Yi Tianquang was naturally aware of Yi Qingqian's character since he had always been paying attention to and doting on his daughter. Probably, Yi Qingqian's appearance in the Crown Prince Palace was because she was jealous of Yi Qingluo and specially tagged along. Seeing that Yi Tianquang remained silent, Yi Qingluo's lips curled into a sneer. On the contrary, I feel that the person Ling Fenghua wanted to meet today is actually Yi Qingqian. But in front of so many people, he's afraid of ruining his own crown prince's reputation, so he deliberately used me as a shield. Otherwise, why would I be asked to leave the Crown Prince Palace right after I arrived at the Crown Prince Palace? And why would such a thing happen right after that? Yi Qingluo's counterattack actually made sense. For a moment, Yi Tianquang was speechless. Even Madame Yuqi, who had been crying, stopped crying. It seemed like there was really such a possibility. After all, Yi Qingqian and Ling Fenghua had always been sneakily together. Some time ago, because Yi Qingluo kept on bringing this matter out in the open in front of the commoners. This kind of scandal would greatly affect the Crown Prince's status. The most important point is, why did Second Prince go at such a coincidental time? Yi Qingluo asked this question word by word. Second Prince accepted such a huge gift from her and successfully brought Ling Fenghua down from the stage. Although the monarch hadn't appointed another crown prince, but Second Prince's actions today had brushed up the three old ministers and the commoners' favorable impression. The Crown Prince's position would belong to Second Prince sooner or later. Just treat it as returning the gift. This pot, Second Prince should carry it well. This sentence, indeed attracted Yi Tianquang's attention. That's right, in the royal family, the only person Yi Qingluo knew was only Ling Fenghua. Yi Qingluo probably hadn't even met Second Prince before, so how would she collude with Second Prince to frame Yi Qingqian? Chapter 439. Yi Qing Luo had a panoramic view of Yi Tianquang and old Grand Madame's expressions. The corners of her lips curled into a cold smile as she turned around and grabbed Yi Fengyu's arm. She chuckled, "Eldest sister, this matter has a deep impact on the Three Springs sect. Father will be mentally and physically exhausted in the near future." She paused for a moment, then smiled even more charmingly. "I'm afraid I won't be able to see Big Sister get married, then I'll have to trouble Father to congratulate Big Sister on my behalf, and congratulate her for finally getting married to Lang Fenghua." Ever since Yi Qing Luo's marriage was fixed, Yi Qing Jian had been racking her brains to seduce Lang Fenghua. Finally, he successfully made Lang Fenghua's gaze shift to him. Wasn't it for the sake of marrying Lang Fenghua? Madame Yuqi's face was steely green as the rouge on her face was smeared by her tears. She didn't even know that as her pair of venomous eyes stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo. Looking at the smile on Yi Qing Luo's face, listening to her congratulations. It was obvious that he harbored malicious intentions and wanted to see a joke. "Get lost. Get lost. Get out of here." Madame Yuqi only felt that her eyes were extremely dazzling. A sour feeling assaulted her nose and tears rolled down her cheeks again. Her two daughters, the two daughters she was so proud of, were ruined. Her dream of becoming the crown princess was over. Her dream of using her daughter's power to become the first madam of the Yi family was completely shattered. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes were curved, sparkling like stars, dazzling and dazzling. She didn't say anything else and just dragged Yi Fengyu out of the main hall. Behind her, no one stopped her, nor did they have the time to stop her. The most important thing now was how to solve the scandal that Yi Qing Qian created. Although they wholeheartedly wanted Yi Qing Qian to become the crown prince's imperial concubine, but they had to use an open and above-board excuse to make it seem legitimate. At this critical juncture, he used such a method to expose everything. Yi Qing Qian would only bear the infamy of being a slut who had no bottom line to forcibly take her sister's fiancé. He probably wouldn't be able to wash himself clean in this lifetime. The Three Springs sect was also deeply affected, and people were pointing fingers at them. They were badly battered, but Yi Qing Luo was extremely relaxed. The two of them walked all the way out of the Three Springs sect's residence. Yi Qing Luo released her brother's wrist and walked towards the west of the city. Yi Fengyu followed closely behind his sister's footsteps, his face filled with anxiety and worry. "Sister, aren't you afraid that when Yi Qing Qian wakes up, she will expose you?" Yi Qing Luo's righteous words to Yi Tianquang earlier had shocked him so much that his heart was thumping non-stop. Although he didn't understand the process, but he was very clear that Lang Fenghua and Yi Qing Qian would be in the garden. It was absolutely related to his sister. Even if she were to expose me, who would believe her? Yi Qing Luo wasn't bothered at all. Since she dared to say this, she wasn't afraid. The current Yi Qing Qian's reputation had hit rock bottom and she was full of curses. Even if she said that she was framed by Yi Qing Luo, and said that Lang Fenghua was also framed by Yi Qing Luo and had taken an aphrodisiac. But with Yi Qing Luo's righteous speech earlier, the Yi family had already excluded Yi Qing Luo from the first impression. When Yi Qing Qian said this, Yi Tianquang would only think that she was at death's door and still wanted to drag Yi Qing Luo down to be a scapegoat. Alright, this matter ends here. What you need to do next is to put your mind on cultivation and training. Yi Qing Luo saw that Yi Fengyu still had a worried look on his face and stretched out her hand to pinch his cheek. For the 3 days of holiday, you will follow the devil class's students and undergo actual combat training. Don't forget the promise you made to sister. Sister, I have always remembered it. Chapter 440. The young man's sonorous voice and unwavering tone declared his promise. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with smiles, like the sun, dazzling and warm. The next second, Yi Fengyu rubbed his face and muttered softly, "Devil classes students. All need to participate in actual combat training. You want me to follow them? Why don't you let me follow Master Guiyu? When you see them later, say this again." Yi Qingluo laughed lightly as she stretched out her hand and messed up Yi Fengyu's meticulously combed hair. City West Mansion. It was an old mansion which didn't look outstanding on the outside. This was the old mansion which Yan Xiaoyi had used all her years of savings to purchase. From the outside, it looked rather old and shabby, and in the bustling Three Springs city, it was extremely inconspicuous. But when Yi Qingluo led Yi Fengyu into the inner courtyard, the entire mansion style seemed to have undergone an earth-shattering change. The decorations, the clusters of flowers, the luxuriant trees, it was absolutely not inferior to any large family's mansion. On the contrary, it looked extremely luxurious. They had just arrived at the inner courtyard and Qiao Jin was greeting the students, assigning them to their rooms. The minute he saw Yi Qingluo, he went up to her. "This mansion is much more comfortable than Devil class. In future when we graduate, let's sleep here at Xiaoyi's place." Saying that, his vision shifted onto Yi Fengyu. "My brother, Master Guiyu's disciple." Yi Qingluo pushed Yi Fengyu forward. "His ability is not bad, but he lacks actual combat experience. He will be training with you these few days. Also, join the mercenary group." Qiao Jin tugged Yi Fengyu as he touched his bone structure. "Join." Yi Fengyu was stunned as he blinked his eyes in a daze. "Sister, what mercenary group? Kids only need to be obedient, don't ask too much." Yi Qingluo patted his head. "Go and nurture your relationship with your brothers and sisters." Yi Fengyu obediently agreed, his gaze drifting back and forth between the students around him. These were all Devil classes students. They looked to be around his age, and their faces were filled with radiant smiles. They were totally different from the academy's rumored trash. Not allowing Yi Fengyu to think deeply, Qiao Jin's arm was already on his shoulder. "Let's go, Brother Qiao will bring you to meet the other brothers and sisters. The earlier you get to know each other, the more you can nurture your rapport." Yi Fengyu's body stiffened. He had never had a friend that he could put his arm around. Qiao Jin's action frightened him. Subconsciously, Yi Fengyu looked at Yi Qingluo for help. Before she could say anything, an elegant and cheerful voice rang out, "Sister, you're here." She saw a lady dressed in a black furry long dress bouncing over to Yi Qingluo's side, as she hooked her arm with one hand. Her delicate and sweet face was filled with a sweet smile. Her eyes, which were as cunning as a cat's, were full of worship. Yi Fengyu's heart fiercely trembled, and he swallowed back the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Following that, a few other female students surrounded Yi Qingluo. "Madam Qingluo. Student Yi." Their faces were full of smiles. Moreover, their gazes towards Yi Qingluo were all the same, filled with worship. As though Yi Qingluo was their revered deity, their pillar of support. "Feel that sister has been snatched away." Qiao Jin's voice suddenly rang beside his ear. Yi Fengyu was stunned, as his vision stared at Yi Qingluo's direction without blinking, as he shook his head. "Only feel that sister is really incredible." You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.